Good morning and welcome to the 20th year of Trekzone. From humble beginnings, we've grown. What was a high school project has become the biggest hobby I could have imagined. Over the next 4 hours, we're going to celebrate Australia's first science, space and science fiction podcast network, flash back to what was and bring you everything that is. But of course, none of that can happen without first rolling the opener and getting today's proceedings started.
Beaming live around the world on Trekzone TV. It's our 20th anniversary celebration. First this morning, we look back at where it all began.
Well, in the very beginning, Trekzone was a Year 10 IT project. Design a website about something you love and submit it for a grade. It was all about HTML and CSS. Trekzone then grew to a simple group of pages on GeoCities, going by the name of Starbase 211. On July 10, 2003, Trekzone.org was born, drifting between temporary pages and the same group of standby pages with no real direction. I'm reminded of countless hours on the Trek United Australia forum, Starfleet Mum, Croc of Lestock and so many others. Ideas bandied around there would go on to formulate Trekzone. Fast forward to 2004 and the beginning of my career in Australian television. Over the next 3 years, I would learn the various tools of the trade, especially how to make a quality product with a very small budget. I can't tell you the evolution to video podcasting without first touching on my television career, which taught me the lessons of cheap but quality production. In the beginning, the crew consisted of a good friend and my family. Together we produced Australia Day 2005 and 2006, a look at the air display over Perth during Australia Day. During 2006, I met Fred and Adrian from The Couch, plus Liam, who's gone on to be a very close friend. And with their help, Countdown 31 was created, a music clip show counting us down to the new year, which in the first couple actually finished at 11 p.m. In 2007, I continued to learn and worked on various productions. One of the biggest I undertook happened during that year. Wake Up WA, a 1-hour live and local breakfast show. I helped grow the news department and we somehow managed to create 2 updates daily with moving pictures from the 9 News bulletin of the night before. They were crazy hours, but with a good crew, it was the best time. To round out the year, Countdown 31 returned with a 2-hour special with the help of the public access station Access 31. We actually welcomed in the new year this time, and it was during this year that the basic idea for Eternal Night was formulated. At that stage though, it was just a desire to create a short film. 2008 saw my first interstate move. It lasted 4 months in the last quarter of the year, but it caused me to be away for the demise of Access 31, which was put through receivership and was officially declared dead on August 6 of that year. Flash forward to the middle of 2011, and with a good job at what would become Paramount Australia, I decided it was high time to get cracking on that short film idea before I hit 30. Writing began, ideas came and went, and eventually, while the video production of the series as enhanced audio didn't make it past 4 episodes, the scripts for the 10-episode run are available on Trekzone. 2013 rolls around, and with the ability to use a green screen, Skype and video editing software, we began podcasting. First to celebrate 10 years of Trekzone, then a few in 2014 and 2015. 2016 saw a more concerted effort, but with Dad's passing, I needed to focus on family. 2017 was a rebuild of sorts ahead of a massive 2018 where we produced Once More with Feeling. Trekzone's only Star Trek fan film, with Aaron Vanderklay as my first assistant director and Liam as a DOP. The fan film was a mix of proof of concept and semi-polished visual effects from Samuel Cockings. It's been well received with over 28,000 views in 5 years. 2019 saw the beginning of Talkin' Science, a way of expanding the podcast offering and continuing the mission of following my passion. 2020 and COVID came along, yet podcasting intensified. 2021 with 350 podcasts, 7 days a week pretty much. Even with that incredibly lofty goal that year, I would embrace Trekzone Media as a full-time business, leaving Paramount behind. 2022, and we continued the schedule 5 days a week, getting to know the key players in the Australian space industry, developing professional relationships, and attending Australian first rocket launch attempts. In 2022, I also launched Fan Film Update and continued Sci-Fi News. Talkin' Science moved on from Dr. Brad co-hosting and kept an eye on the latest astronomical findings. And of course, the very first Trekzone Fan Film Awards that managed to generate a bit of buzz. This year started with 8 weeks on the road where I managed to podcast with a bit more of a consistent look with thanks to this virtual set. Chuck over at Mentioning Trekkie Mentions continued his work in the background on the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards, and we were invited to the premiere Australian Space Forum and received preview screeners for Picard's Season 3 and Strange New Worlds Season 2. Which pretty much brings us to here. Hundreds of hours of pre-production for this live stream, and its major drawcard were never going to be interrupted by anything nature or life could throw at it. So it is, without further ado, that I say thanks for beaming in to this special edition live on Trekzone TV. We will get it started very, very shortly. As a reminder of our socials, continue there. Don't forget to like, follow and subscribe to us. Looking forward to the next 4 hours. It's going to be absolutely exciting. Michael, our director, let's get this party started.
The 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards begin right after this first look at our next drama project.
Welcome to the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards and the beginning of our celebrating 20 years of Trekzone live stream event. I am Matt Miller. We are live, and it's time to get celebrating Star Trek fan films done right over the past 13 months. We're back again to hand out prize packs for winners in categories that Mentioning Trekkie Mentions and I think are deserving. It's been a journey, once again, to get to this point.
Beaming live around the world on Trekzone TV. It's the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards with Matt Miller.
And I confused everyone there by continuing to read the script. We are here and we are live. As I said, you heard Ahsoka in the background doing this from Trekzone HQ. Very much looking forward to all of today. Let's get cracking on the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards. As I say, these are the categories that Mentioning Trekkie Mentions and I think are deserving. It's been a journey, as I said, getting here. There is absolutely no time wasted today, so let's dive into our first category, Best Hero Ship. Our nominees are the USS Constitution, Starfleet Legends Act 2 Smoking Gun Films, the USS Indianapolis Chaos at the Neutral Zone, Samuel Cockings, the USS Caliborn Reciprocity, Potemkin Pictures, and the USS Uderon, next in line, Uderon Infinity. A special mention to the USS Fauci from Borg Hunters, who just missed out on a top 4 placement, but the winner is the USS Uderon from Uderon Infinity. And the USS Uderon showcases the beautiful Akira-class design, and fans get to enjoy the interior of the ship as well as the exterior. The nominees for Best Gag Reel are Resistance from Aaron Vanderklay, 359 David Ellis, next in line Uderon Infinity, The COVID Conundrum RB's Toy Box, and the winner for Best Gag Reel in the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards is next in line Uderon Infinity. Next in line's gag reel hit the right spot from the burp to the knocking over of the cup. It is always good to see fan films having fun, especially when it's unintentional. On to Best Villain. The nominees are the Klingons, Wartag, Potemkin Pictures, the Jem'Hadar, Battle at Velsec 2, Power 543 Productions, the Romulans, Star Trek Sirius, Steve Neal, and the Baddies from Galaxy Queen, The Wavelength. And the winner is the Romulans from Star Trek Sirius, Steve Neal. The Romulans in Star Trek series destroyed the USS Drexler and were eager to deliver the USS Enterprise the same fate. The Romulan commander was just as troublesome as the one in the classic episode Balance of Terror. Well, time for our first Gender Split Award of the year, a chance to double our offering for the supporting cast and recognise more folks' work in Star Trek fan films. Our nominees are Tom Erdman as Lieutenant Commander Agent DeFalco, next in line, Uderon Infinity. MJ Johnson as Executive Officer, The Castaway, Potemkin Pictures. Mark G.H. Lum as Dr. Leland Tam, Borg Hunters, Star Trek Fan Productions International. And Blake Bryant as Commander Parsons, Mudd's Mission, The Federation Files. With a special mention to Colton Smith from Commanders of Starfleet and Matt Accra from Reciprocity for making our top 6, but there can only be one winner for Best Supporting Actor, and that is Tom Erdman as Lieutenant Commander Agent DeFalco, next in line, Uderon Infinity. Tom plays his role perfectly. We got the feeling that he was the perfect fit for Commander Harriman, especially at the end when he thrusts more power upon Lieutenant Commander DeFalco. And naturally, the next award is for Best Supporting Actress. Our nominees: Rachel McCann as Ops, Resistance, These Are the Voyages. Sarah Johnson as Ensign Gina Boyd, 359 from David Ellis. Alexandra Ivy, Commanders of Starfleet from Jane Ord Productions. Cassie Martin as Callie, The Castaway, Potemkin Pictures. With a shout out to Anshke Simon from Starfleet Legends Act 1 for making our top 6. There can only be one winner, and that is Sarah Johnson as Ensign Gina Boyd, 359, David Ellis. Sarah plays the ensign role perfectly in 359, we feel. You get the feeling that she is overwhelmed by the situation that had taken place at Wolf 359 and the frantic effort to reunite with Starfleet personnel. Let's keep the good times rolling. Turning to Best Editor, our nominees are David Ellis, 359, Samuel Cockings for Falling Heroes, Dan R. Reynolds, Mudd's Mission, The Federation Files, and Steve Neal and SNG Studio for Star Trek Sirius, with Michael Stuhlberg and Randy Wren for Valhalla Calling in our top 6. The winner is David Ellis for 359. Dave entered the fan film scene and put together a great first effort. 359 was risky, but it was worth taking the chance on expanding upon an iconic storyline. We're setting a cracking pace here. Let's keep it going with the Best Visual Effects, and our nominees are Rastislav Svaba, The Day the Federation Stood Still, FS Film, Ross Trowbridge, Warthog, Potemkin Pictures, Power 543 Productions, Battle of Velsec 2, and Steve Neal and Matt Boardman, Star Trek Sirius from Steve Neal, with Lee Gartrell for Valhalla Calling making our top 6. The winner is Steve Neal and Matt Boardman for Star Trek Sirius. The visual effects in Sirius were excellent. The use of the Constitution class model by Chris Martin, who is also known as the Evil Genius, was great. The Romulan ship was beautiful, and we did like seeing the CGI Enterprise decks. Absolutely fantastic. Best Music returns for 2023. The nominees are Nicholas Gardner, Resistance, from These Are the Voyages. Jeff Thomas for Captain Roth's Final Message, Fetco Studios and Harris Film Productions. JCR Miller, Warthog, Potemkin Pictures. And Matt Milne, Chaos in the Neutral Zone from Samuel Cockings, with Michael Day, Carrie Olsen and Ross Stack for Reciprocity in our top 6. The winner is Nicholas Gardner, Resistance, Aaron Vanderclay. Nicholas's music in Resistance really gave the fan film that extra punch. Music can kick a film up a notch, and Nicholas' music does just that. On to Best Story now. Our nominees are David Ellis, 359, Jan Soka-Kratky, Syojul, FS Film, David Eversole for Snowbound from Potemkin Pictures, and Samuel Cockings from Fallen Heroes. With Victoria Avalon for Prime Directive in our top 6. The winner, mentioning Trekkie Mentions and I thought was most deserving for the past year, is Jan Soka Kratky for Syogil FS Film. This story was one that lived up to its title, and the way the film is wrapped up was an interesting solution. Go check it out after this stream. Makeup enters the Trekzone Fan Film Awards for the first time, a chance to recognise more members of the crew that work to bring our Star Trek environments to life. This was a hard category to judge, so much good work, but our top 4 nominees are Hilda Halatius, Miriam Hall, Laura Johnson, Daniel Rhodes and the entire cast from Reciprocity, Potemkin Pictures, Dagmar Singer, Silky Persh and Anchkie Simon, Starfleet Legends Act 2, Smoking Gun Films, Chelsea Ross, Before the Terror, Spacegate Station, and Michelle Reynolds, Sophia Hinckley and Chris Hinckley for Mudd's Mission, The Federation Files, with Ayana Yisrael for Galaxy Queen making our top 6. The winner is Dagmar Singer, Silky Persh and Anchkie Simon, Starfleet Legends, Act 2, Smoking Gun Films. And I will declare an apology if I have done the pronunciation poorly. But they won because it was fantastic work, especially when it comes to showing the injuries that were suffered by the crew. Let's keep going. Another new category for 2023 is Best Costume. Again, recognising more of the crew that bring the show to life. Our nominees are Lower Decks Uniforms, The Day the Federation Stood Still, FS Film, The Romulans from Commanders of Starfleet by J. Nord Productions, the Black Starfleet Uniforms from Reciprocity in Potemkin Pictures, Jerry Powell for the Borg in Borg Hunters, Star Trek Fan Productions International. With the Voyager era uniforms in Resistance and First Contact era uniforms in Next in Line, making our top 6, the winner is the Black Starfleet uniforms from Reciprocity, Potemkin Pictures. Now these uniforms are unique. The black uniforms gave the Caliborn crew a certain level of mystique. In a way, it matches the Caliborn perfectly, as both they have that aura of power about them. The Borg were fantastic as well, but I think it's just that original creation of the black uniforms that really made it for us. So let's keep moving for another category. Returning for 2023 is the Best Reimagined Character. Those we got to meet in canon and have an extended life in Star Trek fan films. Marcus Benowart as Captain Christopher Pike, Starfleet Legends Act 2, Smoking Gun Films. David Chang as Captain Harry Kim, Borg Hunters, Star Trek Fan Productions International. Callie Green as Uhura, Escape from Magna Roma, The Federation Files. And David Whitney as Harry Mudd, Mudd's Mission, The Federation Files. The winner is, in his, wait for the cheer, Matt, in his second nomination in a row and first win, Marcus Benowart as Captain Christopher Pike, Starfleet Legends, Act 2, Smoking Gun Films. Marcus played the role of Captain Pike with authority. You can see it in the way he stands and asks and talks even. And you just identify him as the leader of the captains that are with him. Onwards, we march towards Fan Film of the Year. The next category is Best Producer or Producers. Our nominees: David Ellis, 359. Matthew Lee Blackburn and Katie Blackburn, Ultimate Survivals. Samuel Cockings for Fallen Heroes. Aaron Chappell and Aaron Vanderclay for Resistance. These are the Voyagers. The winner is David Ellis for 359. His efforts in producing 359 were the complete package. It looked right, it sounded right, everything made sense, and it was certainly a worthy choice for Best Producer. Trekkie Mentions and Trekzone have decided the following are worthy of a nomination for Best Director: Aaron Vanderclay, Resistance, These Are the Voyagers. Jan Soka Kratky, The Day the Federation Stood Still from FS Film. Samuel Cockings for Fallen Heroes. Candice Lambert from Escape from Magna Roma, The Federation Files. With Anderson Lay for Apocalypse Now and Sebastian Bitten's work on Next in Line in our top 6, there can only be one winner, and that is Aaron Vanderclay for Resistance. He is one of the best directors in the Star Trek fan film world, and Resistance was made to excellence and capped off a great trilogy of fan films. down into the meaty end and not far off those big awards. Best Actor, we reckon these are worthy of nominations. Adam Zamolello, as Commander Tyson Zahn, 359, David Ellis. Lawrence Fleming as Captain Lecat from Honor Blade, Potemkin Pictures. Marcus Churchill as Ensign Sam Harriman, Fallen Heroes, Samuel Cockings. David Chang as Captain Harry Kim, Borg Hunters, Star Trek Fan Productions International. With Dr. Lud Yisrael in Galaxy Queen making our top 6. The winner for Best Actor in this year's Trekzone Fan Film Awards is Adam Zamolello as Commander Tyson Zahn, 359 from David Ellis. Now, Adam goes from being a commander to being the captain of the survivors of Wolf 359 as he seeks to unite everybody and get them out of their predicament, something that Starfleet had never faced on that scale before. Making up our top 4 nominations for Best Actress in the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards are Kate Elder as the Captain, Resistance, These Are the Voyages. Veronica Horova, Sayajil, FS Film. Victoria Avalon as Captain Sian Gabriel, Prime Directive, Potemkin Pictures. And Emma Thorne as Ensign Laura Reed, Chaos at the Neutral Zone from Power 543 Productions. The winner for Best Actress at the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards is Emma Thorne as Ensign Laura Reed, Chaos at the Neutral Zone from Samuel Cockings. Emma gave the perfect portrayal of an enthusiastic young ensign eager to make their mark in Starfleet. A million thoughts a second. The confidence, the uncertainty, it was the complete package. Therefore, worthy of being our winner. We're into our top 3 awards now. Best Production House. Potemkin Pictures took out this award with great fanfare last year. Can they go back to back? Well, let's find out with the nominations. They are AV Productions, FS Film, Potemkin Pictures. There they are, Power 543 Productions. With Warp 66 Studios in our top 6, there can only be one winner. That is... Yes, they can. It's Potemkin Pictures, Best Production House. Let's celebrate the final 3 awards with prize packs and interviews. Joining me now is Potemkin's creator, Randy Landers. Randy, welcome and congratulations. An incredible achievement and recognition of a huge workload throughout the last year, my friend.
Thank you so much. We appreciate this award and the recognition of all the hard work that goes into all of our productions. And I hope that everyone continues to enjoy our 10 to 12 offerings every year.
Absolutely. Now, Potemkin Pictures is a quality factory of Star Trek. You guys may not have the expensive sets of Warp 66 and Neutral Zone Studios, but the amount of quality work that you guys put out with different Starship crews and the occasional Klingon one is neatly admirable, even inspiring that anybody, for anybody, if they get the determination, can make something special on home turf.
We love being in the basement.
It is fantastic. I have seen around the basement and just an incredible experience as well to know that that's all there. You moved into this house, you mentioned it on Trekzone a few months ago, moved into this house, found the basement and just immediately knew what you were going to do with it.
I knew which house I wanted. My wife has the upstairs and I have the downstairs. But
I love it.
It's wonderful that we've got so many cast members and crew members that come, and we have work days at least 1 or 2 a month, and people show up and help us make repairs and modifications and help us improve the set all the time.
And even a recent release as well. I believe a new film came out last week.
Yeah, we're constantly filming. We've got one that just came out last week. We've got one that came out the month before. We've just keep on coming them out. I will tell you, this last release is so scary. You need to go watch it. It's From Where Monsters Dwell, and please be sure and check it out on the Starship Webster channel.
Absolutely. And I think we should give a little bit of credit to Billy Swanson as well. I know he's watching. Reciprocity obviously took out a swath of nominations and a couple of awards. What's it like having someone like Billy come along who clearly has a lot of enthusiasm and passion?
He is absolutely fantastic, and I love the joy that he and his cast and crew bring in here. They come in In fact, they come in, they have me turn on the lights, and I go upstairs and watch NASCAR, and they're all sitting down here making Star Trek. And then they produce a great film every time. It's just absolutely wonderful having them on board with us.
Well, congratulations once again, Randy. It's been a thrill to watch the constant stream of productions from your basement studio.
Thank you so much. Y'all live long and prosper. And congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you again real soon. Alrighty, that's a swath of awards announced. We're down to the final two. Strap yourselves in because we're not stopping now. Splitting the Best Fan Film Award was the easiest decision to make with a pool of over 59 films in our list. Under 10 minutes in duration are in contention for Short Fan Film of the Year. I've put together a little highlight reel of these 4 nominees. Let's play that right now. A reminder of those nominees.
I've got something.
Scanners.
Looks to be a Class M planet, oxygen atmosphere, no sign of vegetation or life.
Okay. We'll run a topographical scan and relay the information back to headquarters. It'll be up to them to... Romulans. Where do they come from?
They're locking weapons.
Bring us into the atmosphere. We'll try and lose them there.
There were no life signs. Why are we...
Matthias is right. I'm not getting any life signs.
Salandra?
Nothing. Wait.
Human erythrocytes.
You mean blood?
Red blood cells.
Then just say blood, Lieutenant Commander.
I would prefer to be more precise, Commander.
Which way?
Awesome, thanks.
Blood.
Look sharp, everyone. My targeting scanner's picking up something.
There are moments which never leave you. Moments that change your life forever. As the captain of a Federation starship, I look for the unknown. But sometimes, the simplest of things can be the most dangerous. In those moments, we either fall under the weight or rise to the occasion.
All hands, prepare to launch escape pods. Emergency crews, head to your designated pods. Computer, is our trajectory holding as expected?
Negative. Gravimetric forces exceeding predicted levels. Solar collision in 13 minutes.
Damn. Plan B it is.
Breathe. Get your hands up. Let's go.
That's right, scum. Stand in the presence of your superior.
Henderson, is that you?
Hail the Empire. Yes, it's me. Simmons?
I was sent to get your request for your last meal.
Hold out your hand.
Last meal? I wasn't informed I was being executed.
You're not, but you might as well be.
We're live, and I just needed to stop talking for 27 minutes and drink some coffee. Excuse me. The winner of Best Short Fan Film is... Hold for the applause, Matty. Commanders of Starfleet, J. Nord Productions. Unfortunately, Jeff couldn't be with us today, but it's a massive congratulations to him and the team for making one hell of a 1940s era science fiction epic set in the Star Trek universe. What I can say is that Commanders of Starfleet was the perfect tribute to the serial days of cinema or the early days of science fiction on TV. And I believe that if you stuck the film in rotation with other similar films, people would have trouble figuring out it is a modern piece of art. Congratulations, Jeff, and the entire team. Looking forward to catching up with you real soon. Well, it all comes down to this, the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film of the Year. And the nominees are, stand by for that package, Michael. Let's roll it.
Captain?
Look at this. These carvings must predate the Federation itself. Ensign, grab a detailed scan of this wall and relay it back to the Explorer.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see if we can get some answers here. What do you make of this?
Looks like a pretty clear do not disturb sign. Perhaps we should listen to it.
According to the tricorder, these remains are over 2,000 years old.
Captain, before we go any further, I'd like to secure the area. There may be some sort of primitive traps.
No sign of physical trauma. Perhaps they were left to guard something. Something like that.
Captain! Sorry,
Mayday! Mayday, this is Commander Tyson Zahn of the USS Melbourne. If anyone is out there, please respond. Repeat, this is Commander Tyson Zahn of the USS Melbourne. If anyone is out there, please respond.
I'm here! I'm here!
I see that. And you are?
Boyd. Ensign Gina Boyd, sir.
Commander Zahn, what's your duty assignment, Ensign?
3rd Shift Tactical Officer on the Kyushu.
Ops on the Melbourne.
The Melbourne? How bad?
My escape pod sensors went out, so I can't tell you what the damage is, but I wouldn't be out here if it looked like she was going to survive. The Kyushu?
The port nacelle blew just as my pod was launched. I saw the ship lose power right before the shockwave hit. I think I was unconscious for a while. When I came to, I set course for the Kyushu's last known position, but no sign of her here.
Kapitánův osobní deník. USS Camelot prochází údržbou po konci své druhé 5leté mise. Náš poslední úkol v rámci programu hledání potenciálně zapomenutých technologií skončil úspěchem. V troskách mocné říše Tkon jsme nalezli krystalický pohon, umožňující ve zlomku vteřiny překonávat tisíce světelných let. Až se na loď vrátí posádka, budeme mít tu čest ho prvně vyzkoušet. Já však vím, co musím udělat.
Pozor, akvamarínový poplach. Krystalický pohon aktivován. Souřadnice skoku, Megelianovo mračno.
Co se děje? Počítači, zruš poplach a vypni motory. Autorizace Lens 47DA.
Nelze splnit.
To bych se na to...
Vyšší programování. Transfer za 5.
My name is Ensign Laura Reed, Science Officer on the USS Indianapolis. I actually graduated 4 months ago. Didn't imagine I'd be talking to Memory Alpha so quickly. Hi, Mum. Hi, Eric. Look, it's your famous sister.
The Indianapolis was tasked with continuing research on a red giant in the Rentax system. The Vigilance had made the discovery, but with other assignments needing a Nebula class's attention, the Indianapolis took over.
Wherever the best research is, I'm there. But when Commander Sudan said it was near the neutral zone, I got nervous. My ancestor, Malcolm Reed, served on the NX-01, fought in the war. After reading about Starfleet's new encounters with the Romulans in the last few years, I would have loved to be on the other side of the quadrant, but we were sent right into the action.
And the winner for Best Fan Film of the Year at the 2023 Trekzone Fan Film Awards is... Hold for the applause, Matty. 359, David Ellis. Congratulations, David. Have I got you there? Am I too quick for everybody? Congratulations, David.
Thanks, Matt.
What an epic sweep, really, of the awards. 359 was our choice for Best Fan Film. It adds to the famous Battle of Wolf 359 that has enchanted Star Trek fans for many years. Voyager and Deep Space Nine opened the door for the subject of battle survivors, and 359 gave it new depth because you always wondered what happened after Starfleet personnel abandoned ship, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I am absolutely blown away. I'm just so happy, and I'm glad that the actors were recognized as well, because it was great to pull this off. It was the first film I had made in probably 30 years, and just coming back to it, and everything just came together, and it was so much fun to make. It was just so great, and I am beyond honored.
Well, it's swept our awards. 5 wins for 359, well deserved. Chuck and I try and share the love, as it were, with the awards. But just like last year with Yorktown, A Time to Heal, and this year with 359, there is always one I find that just cuts through for the whole year and is just the talking point and the talking point of the year in our niche of a niche.
Yeah, and it was, and I got to say, it was kind of surreal watching it on a Zoom, because that's kind of how the idea came about, as everybody being on Zoom calls. So seeing Zoom windows and Zoom windows, it was kind of surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. Loving the Trekzone green room there, running off soon. We've had Randy. We're going to have Trekzone conversations throughout the morning as well. It's a thrill to have everyone in, and this is a fantastic way, as I just look off in the distance as Ahsoka tries to eat the butter croissants that are on the craft table. Thankfully, the control room caught that. But look, it is fantastic. We spoke a couple of months ago. Is there plans for another film from you?
I've got a number of other ideas kind of on the burner, but I'm trying to decide just how ambitious I want to be. There's everything from a couple of more green screen ideas that I've got, all the way up to something that would require a lot of sets and a lot of people and a lot of singing and dancing and music. So I won't say any more than that, but always wanted to do a musical.
I love it. Just for people that haven't seen our chat from earlier, just talk us through the production of 359 and where that idea came from. As you said, it was from Zoom calls and the COVID era, but just kind of give us that background if you can.
Well, I had written a TOS era script and was ready to go down to neutral zone in Georgia and shoot it right before the pandemic hit, and everything got shut down, and we couldn't do it. And I was sitting around thinking, what can I do without having all the actors in one place? And I came up with the idea of, Zoom calls, because we were all on Zoom calls at that point. And I was like, what do I set? How do I set this up as a Star Trek story? And I immediately thought of Wolf 359 and people who were in individual escape pods trying to work together while they're not in the same place, which is what we were all doing at that point. and the idea just kind of sprung from there. The script kind of came out fully formed. I came up with the idea and wrote it in probably the course of a couple of weeks. But then I'm somebody who goes and tweaks things forever. So by the time I tweaked everything, and by the time I got all the equipment I needed to do it, we ended up not shooting it over Zoom or shooting it remotely. The pandemic restrictions had lifted somewhat, and we just got everybody together in my garage and shot it there, which in retrospect was probably a lot easier. It was hard enough to edit things together when you had somebody off camera reading the lines and had to fix the pacing, but to have everybody doing it individually and have to do that, it would have been a lot harder. So I think it was this one case, procrastination was a good thing.
Absolutely. Well, David, we're fast running out of time for the Fan Film Awards, so I'll say congratulations once again. Thanks for beaming in this morning and sitting in the green room and waiting for this moment. Congratulations again on 5 wins. Looking forward to keeping in touch.
Thanks, Matt, and congrats to Trekzone as well. Yeah, on 20 years, that is really awesome, and congrats to everybody else who won as well. A lot of great competition.
Absolutely, Dave. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much, mate, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, thanks.
Awesome. Well, that is the way MTM and I decided the cookie would crumble for each of our 19 categories this year. A huge effort by Chuck to manually keep that spreadsheet up to date throughout the last 13 months. Prize packs for Best Production House, Best Short Fan Film and Best Fan Film will be dispatched as soon as possible, with the crystal trophies carefully wrapped with a packet of Tim Tams and an Aussie token for their intercontinental voyage to their destinations. There were a couple of films we missed this year due to that manual entering process. And in the case of Avalon Productions, they weren't even considered, as we desired to stay as far away from the Axanar interlude sphere of influence as possible after the interlude withdrawal drama last year brought a lot of stress, strain and public humiliation. And we did not wish to face that again. After we had received a letter from the 19 fan film creators, Josh Irwin was offered the opportunity for his films to be in the honour roll, which was accepted. And in fact, the past few weeks have reminded me of a time just after the fan film guidelines dropped. I celebrated them as a levelling of the playing field, a way for more productions to share the love rather than two massive ones and a bunch of little regarded instances. 6 months after the guidelines, I met Aaron Vanderklay and introduced him to a worldwide audience and repeatedly checked in on his progress as he morphed his production into a series banner of These Are the Voyages. I even flew to Perth to see his production in action at the fall of Starbase One. Over the course of 6 years, I met many fan film producers, all of whom shared the goal of telling stories in the Star Trek universe. You just heard from Randy and Dave. But unfortunately, along the way, politics crept in and productions moved closer and closer together, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. They shared resources, ideas and characters. Axanar plays a role here. Its sycophants spread amongst the community and influenced decisions and opinions. One sycophant in particular would spend an inordinate amount of time attempting to destroy me and these awards. That individual clearly spreads more love than I, and he was able to rally 18 other individuals together to issue a series of editorial demands a week after I sent out offers of nominations, and a mere 24 hours before the deadline to accept. Once again, for the second year in a row, the individual attempted to torpedo our efforts at celebrating Star Trek fan films. But where he failed last year, he gathered friends and attempted a much more direct approach. 2 parties rejected our nominations as a result, but we, once again, prevailed. We put on a damn fine show over the past 40 minutes, with months of prep work amounting to Trekzone's Fan Film Awards, achieving another rousing success. We tried Kumbaya last year and got kicked in the nuts. We tried steering away from that situation and still got kicked in the nuts. That individual's actions don't surprise me. He is, after all, like a force of nature. Nothing you can do to stop it, so you either steer clear or you turn your bow into the wake and tackle it head on. His ability to generate massive controversy behind the scenes, to form alliances and to work to undermine this channel are evidence of the type of person he is, and by extension, the type of people who would side with him. It certainly would have been nice to know that the Hornet's Nest had been kicked over for apparently months beforehand. but the representative chosen to discuss the situation with me wasn't able to convey the truth effectively, and another attempt was only made just mere minutes before the demand letter was received. Many have said that they did not want to hurt my feelings, that they didn't want to anger me, or indeed even know how to approach me. But what kind of friend who knows of that individual's efforts to undermine me allows that individual to influence their decision-making and allows some perceived threat to simmer away deep in the background and do nothing? What kind of friend joins a group chat whose sole purpose is to destroy months of our effort to give them prize packs and recognition? Funnily enough, those who run their own race have nothing but positive things to say about Trekzone and mentioning Trekkie Mentions, and they are whom we have been here for today. My subtle approach at tackling this situation over the past 4 weeks has not been understood. So let me be blunt. For now, I'm stepping away from Star Trek fan films. The Fan Film Awards were my last hurrah. There will be no monthly updates, no check-ins on the productions whom I discovered, no updates from prolific producers, and definitely no appearances in any fan films. You want to work with that individual, you go right ahead, but I'm out. I don't support bullying or strong-arming. If you do, then this little niche of a niche isn't for me after all. I'll be over here receiving press invites from Paramount Plus, receiving embargoed media releases from Australia's science agency, and producing a new independent sci-fi series. If you've seen 5 News, you'll have a leg up on where we're heading. Well, next, in the celebrating 20 years of Trekzone live stream, Lee Sargent is beaming in to catch up on Talkin' Trek since he was last here 2 years ago.
Lee Sargent is standing by. We're returning to Talking Trek and celebrating 20 years of Trekzone right after we sneak a peek at our next drama project.
In a world first, the WA government has allowed a news crew inside a sanctuary district before the walls go up. These modern 2-storey apartment blocks are brand new, having been rezoned from the industrial wasteland that was Thomson Lake. Facilities include commercial space, residential housing, as well as a gymnasium and swimming pool. Australia has borrowed the idea from the United States, and over the last 12 months, construction has been taking place at fever pitch. Our first sanctuary district will be a place for the homeless to try and start a better life. However, real life may be far from this very optimistic promise.
This is a Trekzone Conversation.
All right, Michael, just roll the opener. It has been 2 years since our first Trekzone Conversation guest for this live stream has joined me. Sorry, let me read that auto cue again. It's been 2 years since our first Trekzone Conversation guest for this live stream joined me. Lee Sargent and Talking Trek return now. Lee, I really appreciate you dropping by, mate, especially live this Monday morning. We definitely should keep Talking Trek alive.
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
Very well. I cannot hear you.
Oh, no.
I can hear you in the control room, however.
Oh, okay. Well, then, as long as someone can hear me.
So we might need to
sort of
just...
interpretation.
Lee, what I might get you to do is just tell us about Talking Trek, where we got started. You were in Brizzy, and we started Talking Trek, then you moved to Tasmania.
Yeah, okay. So for those who don't know, I've done a number of, you'll have to excuse the incredible mess behind me, as I think anyone who's ever seen me on this show before knows that it hasn't gotten any better. So yeah, a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, I started drawing a lot of Star Trek pictures, one a day. It was a really interesting project to kind of combine something I loved with finding myself as an illustrator. As one of my kind of really big supporters back then was Matt and Trekzone, who were really excited about everything I was doing. Got me on to start talking about Star Trek because Matt and myself had interesting opinions. I think sometimes we, the general consensus we didn't always go with. So it's been an interesting kind of time. And I think we were covering off pretty much every season of original and then next gen, and talking about kind of the different, I guess, classic shows. And yeah, it was a real joy, and it was actually to be the first on the Talking Trek was actually a surprisingly big honor. I don't say it surprisingly to kind of downplay it, but it was Trekzone's had such a wonderful history, and kind of being part of that family a little bit has been just really, really nice. So yeah. And I don't know any
awesome,
dirty
Lee.
limericks.
Thank you. Just waiting for our wireless mic pack to connect, and there it is.
Cool.
That is what happens when we are live, and batteries say they're full, but anyway. So I was catching some of that. We'll make sure, Michael, that my microphone is turned on. You are obviously hearing me there, Lee.
Yep, cool.
Awesome. Well, there we go. This is what we're doing live. So I was... I was listening to you as well. That really is where we started. We had this desire to create a podcast, discuss Trek, and share our ideas. I think the best part was that we didn't always agree.
Which that's true.
Which was great as well.
It was and that was refreshing about it, I think, which was great. Because I think I've had strong opinions in the past, particularly when it comes to canon. And you have also, had differing opinions with some of the stuff that I've said, and we've managed to, I know this is a shocking concept, but we managed to actually agree to disagree and didn't just scream at each other for like 6 hours or try and flame each other online or cancel each other out or anything like that. So I know it's very unheard of, and it's a very old-fashioned way of doing dialogue, but that's what we did. So and I really appreciated the platform to kind of vent sometimes, because I don't even remember, there was I don't know, I guess it was Discovery, because Discovery was a big catalyst for everyone, and I had a lot of visual opinions about kind of the visual stuff. I'm not a fan of kind of abandoning everything, and I'm not opening that can of worms again. But so yeah. I'm very pleased to come back though and say Picard season 3 has renewed my faith in an appreciation for the aesthetics of the past.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And key member of the production staff, Doug Drexler, is going to join us after we chat together here.
Awesome.
So looking forward to catching up with him. It's been a little while since he's been on the show, and just learning about the production processes in there. I know Dave Blass, we caught up with him at Vegas last year, was really heavily wanting to do that homage to Next Gen, bring everything back. And I think what they did well was that it wasn't completely destroying what had been. It was kind of accepting that that's the way that they're going to take this stuff, but also have a look at all this over here, and let's just have the Enterprise D in a space museum, because of course.
To me, it was okay, and I've seen complaints about fan service, and you're watching a TV show called Picard. I'm not really sure where the confusion point is there. Of course, it's going to be fan service, and I'm here for the fan service. I love it. So this idea of even seeing Kirk's Enterprise, as you know, I'm a big original series guy, and it doesn't mean that I discount any kind of thing else. But knowing that Kirk's remains are there on board whatever that space station is, and the way they brought the Enterprise D back, it was just wonderful.
Yeah, it absolutely was, and it felt natural as well to bring everyone back. And I know that's what they said that they were going to do, and what they really strive for. There was no kind of forced emotion. I know there was some talk online about how we didn't get to see a lot of, we kind of had this feeling that it was going to be everyone all together from the beginning. But I think the way that they did it was very natural. okay, we've gotten to this point now, and we're going to need Geordie to come in, and we're going to get to this point, and we need to bring in, Troy needs to be here as well. So, she's kidnapped, and so that's where Riker comes along.
I think the word need is really, really important there as far as the storytelling kind of method is. Each of them had purpose of being there, and each of them unable to give us kind of whole, story arcs. They had to shortcut to get to points where we know where Worf is now, and we know kind of where Riker and Troy are, and of course Dr. Crusher, who I think that must have been really fantastic for her to kind of come back and play this badass kind of mercenary doctor. And again, it's like this kind of issue of, sure, would it be nice to have a whole new Next Generation season? Maybe. But maybe not at the same time. I think it's nice just seeing where the characters have fallen, and if any of them want to come back and do stuff, then there's always the door there. So I think that's really exciting. And I think Seven of Nine's journey, taking it more on a focus of kind of her becoming a captain and stuff is really, really great. I think that they've done a really interesting way of bringing that back into the fold. So yeah. And Strange New Worlds, of course, we haven't mentioned that. Obviously, they've tried to mesh the aesthetic of original Star Trek with a new show. And I think that, again, they've made really credible kind of attempts to merge the two. And and I don't think one doesn't necessarily have to. There's no absolutes. You don't. Whatever headcanon you want to have is your headcanon, and that's official to you. So, which has always been our argument, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I reckon you're going to come back in a pre-recorded chat, and we're going to dive deeper into this and bring Talk and Trek back. This morning we're kind of covering a lot of stuff off over the last 2 years. Strange New Worlds, of course, I forget, but that started after we last spoke. So, looking at that aesthetic, how are they going to do the Enterprise? They really did. They changed it up subtly from what we saw in Discovery Season 2 to a more fleshed out hero bridge, which was cool. And I know we've had this chat on Talk and Trek before as to whether would a 1960s bridge, would the original bridge have been accepted for Strange New Worlds?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I think you could probably have pushed it a little bit closer and still gotten away with it. But I take the point. I think the aesthetic design is there, though. This is the thing. I remember when, I guess, Discovery was, I must have been season 2 Discovery, I guess, because that's when the Enterprise shows up. I remember seeing online a lot of complaints, about old school Star Trek fans going, what is going on with this, and blah, blah, blah. And I think at the end of the day, my issue always was that there were some very talented people working on original Star Trek. And to say that you can do better, or to assume that you can do better from a, we need to radically redesign something because that's what we do, was offensive. And I think what they've done now is been very, very impressive in how they've paid homage, but also have put a new, have updated it for current audiences a little bit more. And I like the retro feel that they've got right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Picard Season 3, Strange New Worlds, Discovery's wrapping up. We're going to keep these topics fast flowing because we're going to deep dive.
I know we have.
Later.
Well, we have to. We've got Prodigy's been cancelled, and
Prodigy's been
which
cancelled.
Wasn't even started when we were last talking, and it has Janeway in it, for God's sakes, and I don't know. I don't what.
And Chakotay.
Years. Yeah, exactly. Like years ago, going back 5 years, we would not have dreamed of this. And here we are kind of jumping through, and it's already been cancelled. And of course, Lower Decks, I think we were talking about that last time, about potentially how skeptical we were of a Rick and Morty-esque version of Star Trek. And it's become its own thing. It's become its own identity, which is great. There was so many years of nothing happening in Star Trek to everything happening in Star Trek, and I think we probably could fill several hours. And today's not about catching up on whatever my skewy opinions are on this, it is definitely to celebrate the fact that you've been going for that 20 years, and just being appreciative of being part of that and being kind of recognized as someone who's passionate about Star Trek and obviously the aesthetics of Star Trek with the look and feel. You've always given me a great platform for that, and I just really wanted to make the effort to jump on and thank you for that live. With potentially the worst vest ever for TV. So I just realized.
I like it. It's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. It's so sparkly. But yeah. So yeah, Matt, I do I remember meeting you. We met, I think, at Redcliffe.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we were out at a park or something, and you were trying to record with gale force winds and etc. And I had no idea what was going to, who you were or what you were on about. And I think we've been really lucky to kind of forge one of those friendships where we duck in and duck out of each other's lives every year or so, and just pick up from the day before, which is really nice.
You just need to answer your Facebook messages a bit more often.
Oh God, yeah, I know, but that's I'm not gonna make those stupid promises.
Well, in the replay of our chat, so each of these chats this morning are going to be put up as their own episodes on the channel.
Oh, cool.
I will throw up some vision there of that first chat. We were younger. I certainly had more hair back then.
Yeah,
we were overlooking
I'm just faking it right now, so it's letting it fluff up so it looks like there's more than there is.
We were looking at the Redcliffe Bridge. The Redcliffe Bridge was in the background. We'd just randomly gone to a car park at a nature reserve, and there's nothing sketchy about that at all. But here we are. We survived. It's all good.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
just dial 00 on your phone.
Yeah. Oh no, I had my wife was in the bushes making sure.
Wondered what that rustling was.
Yeah. That was it. That's what kept upsetting the sound quality was someone in the bushes watching us, which sounds even sketchier at this stage now.
It's getting worse.
That's it. But no, it's been I think having an Australian, and I know that you're international and stuff like that, but I think having someone local passionate about Star Trek has been really wonderful to kind of to see and to have around. And whilst I am the worst person in the world for interacting with anyone, as you know from just my Facebook messages, I've always been keeping track of what you're doing and stuff. I think we're also on LinkedIn of all random channels. So yeah, I've kind of always kept just an ear out for what you were doing, and of course, I think I was saying to you, there's all this controversy going on for you, and I'm like, okay, that sounds crazy, whatever's going on there. So I'm glad I'm not part of that. No offense.
And I think that's also changed.
Yeah. I'm not going to kick into the animated Star Trek fan films because I don't have time. So I'll stick with one frame at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think that it was kind of a result of COVID. I'd always covered Star Trek fan films, but it really, when I needed to fill out 350 episodes in a year, you've got to find content, and the best content is the stuff that you don't have to necessarily write yourself. So it's kind of, I guess, where it sort of happened, and that was kind of after we sort of spoke, and it is what it is. You were in the green room listening to the editorial at the end of the awards. That's kind of the full stop on the whole thing. It's quite disappointing. But look, we're not here for that. Let's get back to Star Trek.
No. Well, I did want to mention 359, the winner. I hadn't seen anything about that, and hearing that story that's so clever. And I guess that's the thing. That's the shame of this, but you can still appreciate kind of people's productions of stuff. And I think without the politics and all that type of stuff, I think there's love of Star Trek, and this love of being creative and bringing creativity into this is really, that's the more important thing, I think, at the end of the day. So like, all the politics be damned, which is such a weird thing in a genre like Star Trek. No one owns it. Well, Paramount owns it, obviously, but the love of everything, it's a shared love. And as I say, it's the same argument always of trying to impose one's own thoughts or take on something onto other people. What, you don't like Discovery? Oh my God, you're not a Star Trek fan. It's like, who are you to say that? Stuff like that. And then even for, oh, you like Discovery, you're not a Star Trek fan. It's like, come on. It's all good, and we're all here for everything. And yeah, I mean, if you don't like something and you don't want it, and you just move on. You don't need to tell anyone. Hey, I like Star Trek Discovery. You know what? Don't reply if you don't, because it's not gonna. It doesn't require it. So, and that's always been my thoughts on the fandom, as far as I don't get. And I've whipped people up. Don't worry about that. I've been in arguments online, and I think one day I kind of went, "Oh, this is not useful or productive," and it has zero benefit to my life and their life. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about before. You know, we had this healthy discussion, but we didn't feel the need to go and send each other demand letters and
Oh, that's it. Yeah, no.
Changed my
look,
mind.
Shocking. That we could actually have a different take on something.
I know, right?
And who knows? There's probably. I mean, I'm sure our two opinions aren't the only two opinions out there either. There may even be a third one out there. I mean, it'd be wrong, like really wrong. But. But I kind of, and I'm excited about. I really hope that we do get a chance to do a bit more talking Trek, because I'm curious to see where Star Trek goes now that it's looked at Prodigy and said, yeah, no, we're not going to do that anymore, which is fascinating to me, because the idea of it just being cancelled like that is fascinating and kind of sad for the people involved. But I am curious about where Star Trek goes in this new kind of Star Wars centric kind of juggernaut, with Disney kind of doing its thing and the Marvel universe and all that type of stuff. Like, where does Star Trek sit? And I mean, years ago, the idea of recasting Captain Kirk as a side character would have been abhorrent. Whereas seems good. I don't know. I think there's still a lot of life in Star Trek, but I also think that balance is really important for everyone. So, yeah.
And I think our main gripe is kind of still there. Let's move on from this era. I know that there's all these sort of Strange New Worlds has found a bit of a niche to get into and discuss this time. You know, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemeczek, tells me that he's happy with where Strange New Worlds is sitting. It's in this time where we've kind of talked about it in the original series, but we don't know too much about it. Kirk's kind of timeline is still intact canonically. But I don't know. I think I'm still where I was with Discovery. Do we need to be here?
No, we don't. And I agree. What I really liked about Star Trek Picard season 3 was the Titan reclass, which was a Constitution kind of homage. And I'm like,
Constitution 3.
Yeah, well, and I'm like, well, that's actually really awesome. If you want to revisit that style, why not do it in that era with a Constitution 3? Because then you are kind of giving the very familiar, but you're also going forward, and you're not caught up by the fact that at some stage the Enterprise has to go through a massive refit for reasons, and there are other decisions. I mean, we can nitpick all we want. I mean, the fact that Khan Noonien Singh's great granddaughter is on the Enterprise, I do question why one would do that to themselves, when all you had to do was not. You could have made them anyone's. It's an odd one, that one. From my point of view of just why you're trying to make things harder for yourself. And we said that with Discovery. It's like, why would you make things harder for yourself when you could easily have just done this in the future? I kind of, and I think, but I also think at the same time, if you are going to go for, if you are looking to cash in on that kind of nostalgia or fan service, then just do it properly. Just hook in. I get excited about this idea of where they might go with not season 4 of Picard or this Star Trek Legacies or whatever. I've been kind of vaguely hearing about the idea of being able to tell different stories with legacy characters is just it's just great, and I'm really there for it. I'd love to see kind of be able to have the actors that we still have with us come back and do things just for one-offs or whatever, or come back and weave into a storyline. I just think that's just smart. It opens yourself up and doesn't mean you have to go there, but it does mean that you've got those options, and don't necessarily abandon. Like, I love on Picard, sorry to keep going on about it, but the Admiral's badges being a direct homage to the Mighty Maroon jacket, kind of the Monster Maroon jacket kind of badge. It looks so cool and new, but I knew what that was, and I think that's nice. I think there's a great, I think personally, I think there's a great kind of legacy that's coming with those type of balance, and I think we just had to go through some stuff to get there.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's really telling that you're focusing on Picard season 3, spending a little time away and so much Trek in the interim, but Picard season 3 really is kind of that one that kind of speaks to us. I think I enjoyed it as well, and the setup for Star Trek Legacy, as its working title is, and it's kind of on the back burner now.
I know nothing about it either. I am not. It's really interesting. I over the last couple of years, I've really stepped out of that whole kind of needing to, like, I didn't know anything about Star Trek Strange New Worlds apart from, like, I hadn't devoured every little bit of it I just watched it as a show, and I think that actually adds to the joy of that, of being able to it takes me back to my childhood of when Next Generation was brand new, and I think that's part of the thing about Picard season 3 is that it was like coming home, which was nice.
And I think it really showed us what, aside from our TNG crew being the main story, I think it really showed us what Trek now could have been. And it could have been this opportunity for all of our characters from 90s Trek to make cameos as the story sort of justified. But
oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, and for good reasons. That's the thing. Like, I mean, Michael Dorn, we know, we famously want to put Worf in everything.
Yes.
But yes, that'll come up if anyone watches the old interviews. But Michael Dorn was always keen to be part of Star Trek, and I'm sure many of the other actors and actresses were too. I kind of just go, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a DeForest Kelley McCoy episode of Next Generation or something like that, apart from his original appearance, when we had him, and when we had Leonard Nimoy and James Doohan and Nichelle Nichols. Why wouldn't you take advantage of the fact that these people were still around? So I always kind of think they're lost opportunities where it's like, yeah, sure, let's make it work, because these people are big parts of this franchise. And if William Shatner wants to go back and redo Star Trek V edited with a bunch of CGI, then shut up and take my money now. I'll Kickstarter that to hell and back, because I'd love to see that.
Can we get rid of the fan dance though?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, we'd have to. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to CGI that out of our eyeballs, but something. But here you go. You've got a 90-year-old guy who's been into space, and is Captain James Tico. I don't care. Paramount, write off some money and give him the opportunity.
Just get him back.
Yeah, just give him the opportunity now while you've got him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that whole thing, early Next Gen, apparently it was a Gene Roddenberry thing, that he didn't want to, come back to the past, which is really unfortunate, because we look at it now and, it's this whole thing of not cramming them in, but having a story that justifies it. And we saw that with Relics in TNG. Hey, we just happened
Yeah,
to
Relics was really a solid episode, whereas I think I always struggle with Unification a little bit. I don't know. I just felt there was more story there to tell, or I don't know. It was a hard one because you had a lot going on in that episode. It was also the death of Sarek and stuff like that. But yeah, that Relics episode, I mean, it just stands out as an absolute gem of how you could handle this kind of stuff. And I really liked in Picard again, where we had Chekhov's son, supposed son.
Yep, as the Federation
fantastic.
President. Yeah, just a real nice subtle nod.
Just a nod. You don't need to get crazy with it. He doesn't have to be front and center and doesn't have to own the thing. It was just really nice to have a nod to him in that. So I think that's really nice because these people have to. I mean, we love Star Trek and everything, but these people had to live with Star Trek. So so a little bit of reverence isn't that bad an idea, I think, because whilst they're extraordinarily fortunate, they also, to a lot of degrees, did not have a choice of being Chekhov for the rest of his life, and stuff like that. And I know that he's kind of grappled with that a little bit. And
Absolutely. Well, Lee, I think that's a nice place to pin our conversation. I know you've got to head off and do some real-world work, so we'll let you go and do that. We will keep this conversation going. We'll get back and jump on another Zoom and chat all things Trek and dive it into those seasons just like we did in the past. There's plenty more Star Trek to talk about, so really appreciate you beaming in this morning.
Oh yeah, no, my pleasure. And again, congratulations. I'm so keen. I may even clean my room for it. So yeah.
Why start now?
Let's no. Well, I need to start now. Particularly how long it takes us to actually organise things. So that would be just enough time, I think. But I promise not to ignore the DMs.
Very, very good. Well, Lee, once again, appreciate you beaming in, and we will talk to you real soon. Well, don't forget that about our membership. For less than a cup of coffee per month, you'll get early access and behind the scenes. For a little bit more, you can go behind the curtain for your protection. Our social media feeds are active with the latest podcast highlights, and we're on Threads now too. Find Trekzone, like, follow and subscribe. This has been another part of our celebrating 20 years of Trekzone live stream event. It's an absolute thrill to actually have a crew here, be standing in the garage and really just widening out this virtual studio. My thanks to Lee. That was a little bit of a last minute call up, so I appreciate him beaming in as well. Don't go away if you're watching us live. There's plenty more to come. And if you are catching this on replay, be sure to look out for more great content from our 20th anniversary. Michael, it is time to take a break and set up for our next Trekzone Conversation. We'll see you again real soon.
We'll continue celebrating 20 years of Trekzone right after this. There's a dimension beyond that which is known to man. A dimension as vast as space and timeless as infinity. It's the middle ground between shadow and truth, between science and ingenuity, and it lies somewhere out there. Beyond strange new worlds and the spirit that defines humanity. It's a dimension of imagination where the adventure never ends and the Trekzone begins.
David Nichol himself, Richard Dean Anderson, thanks so much for your time. Australia's only astronaut, Dr. Andy Thomas.
When you make a film, you don't know which ones are going to be classics and which aren't.
Tim Russ, Connor Trenier, Grant Imahara, Larry Nemenchek.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Hi, I'm Anthony Rapp. I play Paul Stamets on Star Trek Discovery.
I'm Ava Blackwell from Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Hi, this is Dave Blass. I'm production designer of Star Trek Picard.
And you are watching Trekzone.
Trekzone.
And you're watching Trekzone.
Beaming live around the world on Trekzone TV. It's our 20th anniversary celebration.
Ahsoka's in the studio, and he was Trekzone's second satellite guest 10 years ago when we began our podcasting adventure, and with only a couple of visits since then, it's time to welcome him back to the stage, Mr. Doug Drexler.
This is A Trekzone Conversation.
Well, Doug, welcome back to Trekzone, my friend. It's been a little while since I've had a chat to you. How are you?
Okay, now, wasn't I one of your very first ever?
You were. You were the second only to Rod Roddenberry.
See that?
You even beat Larry Nemeczek.
Now, how long ago was that? That was
10 years.
10 years. Why does it seem longer?
It does feel longer. I think we're both a little hairless, a little more hairless than that time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go to the barber anymore. I just have a pair of clippers. I just like clip it,
Well, it's the same for me as well. I save the $30 a month. I don't need it.
Dorothy used to have this joke about the caveman wanted hair. And he says to God, I want hair. And God says, okay, but it's going to cost you brains.
I love it. Your beautiful wife, Dorothy, unfortunately passing away 12 months ago. How are you doing?
Today is her birthday. And it's the first. Of course, she wasn't here for the last one because she died like just a few days before what would have been her birthday. It's changed my whole brain. I mean, it really. We were together 32 years, and I mean 32 years of perfect, and I'll never be the same. It's impossible. But it's just like the rest of us. Life is just a big roller coaster, and you got to hang on.
Yeah,
and
life
you can.
Life finds a way as well, really, doesn't it? It's been, it was somber 12 months ago, obviously, and then to just see you living as best you can through the months that followed, and there is another beautiful lady in your life.
Oh yeah. I'm really fortunate. If you're on the Facebook page, you've seen Donna. Is a real sweetheart, and I think that she's made a huge difference in my life because my brain was just one big bruise, and I had 32 years of such beautiful affection, and that's what I missed the most, and so I do get that affection from Donna. It makes me feel like the universe hasn't completely forsaken me, And despite of all of this, during Dorothy's illness and her death and everything, was one of the most prolific periods of my time on life on Star Trek, with Picard. That was happening at the same time as I was going through all of that. And the work looks great. I'm really proud. Dave Blass. Thank you, Dave, because, Picard was a gift. Picard is all about coming full circle, and it's behind the camera and in front, when you think of the reunion that you see on the show that really, gets you here, it's happening behind the scenes too.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the fantastic part about Picard Season 3 was bringing everyone back, as you say, not just in front of, but behind the camera as well. And Dave really leaning into, and I know we spoke to him in Vegas last year, that he was absolutely thrilled to have people like you back on the cast. I've spoken to you about the Orville days as well, about how there's that reverence when you step into the art department. Does that ever get old for you, or is it a little embarrassing?
No, it doesn't get old at all. It's just right. It's what it's supposed to be. That's the thrill never goes away. And man, I mean, when I think about how lucky I've been, all the different universes, it's really nuts. and I've had such a fun time. All of that Star Trek, and then Picard and Battlestar Galactica and the Orville, and my thing, well, just like you, has always been about Star Trek type space travel, science fiction stuff, and to get to go from one world to the other, to step from the bridge of a starship to the CIC on the Galactica, and change your head over to work onto that, which is not a long leap, because you had Ron Moore doing Battlestar, and so it really had a lot of Star Trek blood in it already. So it's kind of a alternate. It's really a blending of the original Battlestar and Star Trek, But yeah, man, have I been lucky.
What was it like for you? We haven't spoken since you worked on Picard Season 3. What was it like to see that Enterprise D bridge recreated so faithfully?
Well, as you know, I was a makeup artist on Next Generation. I hadn't, gotten into visual effects or art department or anything yet. And so Next Generation is first of all, just working on my first Star Trek, and that Gene Roddenberry was actually still there, but working on stage, when you're a makeup artist, you are with the cast all the time, day and night, no matter how many hours it is. And that cast was one of the most fun casts that I had ever worked with in my entire career. It was hilarity all the time. And so it's a very, very, very special. For me, it was a thoroughbred Star Trek, because I knew that Gene was there at the beginning, and Bob Justman was there. To me, that was, you can't work on anything more amazing than that. There's plenty of other Star Trek shows now, but one where Roddenberry is still close by, I could be working on a set and look over my shoulder, and Gene would be sitting in a tall director's chair watching me work. That's, but yeah. So that fact that they were going to rebuild that bridge, and of course, when we visit, it's really stunning. It's emotional, just like it is for the cast when they first come on. But the thing is that the work that was done was so perfect. I spent lots and lots of hours on that set, lots of hours, and there was very, very little that seemed, off to me. Everything seemed exactly right. I know that, Dave and Liz went to crazy extremes to get if you're going to mess something up, it's going to be that wood grain on the rail. Come on. That's got to be the hardest thing on the entire, first of all, recreating that rail with the proper curves, because if you really know that set and you really know it, it feels like there's something wrong. There's something off if it's not bending just the right way, It is so beautifully authentic. And they managed to update all the backlights in the back with monitors that are not non-glare monitors. Back on the show, if they had a scene of Data working at the panel, they would have to set up black curtains and stuff to block the reflections of the film crew, because it would be in the plexi,
That's right. Yeah.
But to actually update things so that it doesn't look like you reinvented them, it looks just like it did then, but it's so much. Look at the sequences where it starts up, they're awesome. Oh my God, that is so cool that the end titles that Terry, had them do an Okudagram homage for over the end titles. Absolutely. That just shows it. Terry, the thing about Picard is that many, many people behind the scenes are thoroughbred people who've grown with Star Trek. That Star Trek is like part of their being. It's not just a job, and I think that shows. If that comes across, people can sense that sense of family, and that's what hey, look, Legacy, what a great show that would be. So much unfinished business from the past that you could tie up and bring in some of those actors. What a season that would be. My God, what a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, it's kind of sitting there at the moment. We don't know where it's going to sort of go with the writer strike happening at the moment.
Well, and it's also a very weird time for television too. There's so much content out there, all the streaming that's going on. And I mean, I can't follow everything. The pie is sliced so thin right now. How do they make a profit? So, and then we had the surprise cuts on some of those shows. Now, I've read lots of theories online, what could be going on there, but nobody knows. Nobody knows nothing. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, Prodigy certainly a very interesting one. We'll dive into that with Bill and Dan from the Trek Geeks a little later. But what I've heard is that season 2's already made, so it's a very strange cut, very strange times, as you say. What is happening with streaming? Disney Plus as well. It's not just Paramount. Disney Plus is doing this as well. A lot of the streamers are doing it.
How many
Netflix.
Streaming channels do you need?
Well, and this is exactly right. And how many subscriptions can you have? We're almost back to cable prices these days.
Ridiculous.
It is, and just cutting through, and it's kind of, I think maybe Netflix had the right idea in kind of being an aggregate for everything, and then obviously all the studios went, hey, we could actually gather some data here. And
I have to say something before I go on, is that there's been a lot of Star Trek has been done. Discovery and Strange New Worlds, and full disclosure, a lot of people know I haven't seen any of them. I haven't watched any of them. And I just want to say the reason is because I'm insanely jealous not to be on those shows and a little offended that no one asked me. So it's like I just can't look at them. So that's my story. That's full disclosure there. I have not seen any. Many people have told me that Strange New Worlds is a pretty cool show, but I can't look at it. It tears my heart out.
And I think also too the change in the original Enterprise as well. I think that might be. I know for a lot of people it actually was when we first saw it in the second season of Discovery that it was a bit of a bitter pill to swallow that we didn't just have a faithful recreation of the '60s bridge. I think that's part of the reason that maybe we had the faithful recreation of the D in Picard season 3.
I think that if it was Terry Metalis, it would have been.
Yeah.
It just depends on who's in charge and how important it is to them, or how well they understand. There's a massively underserved portion of fandom out there that grew up on all those other shows, and they feel like they're being neglected. That's why Legacy would cater to that portion of the audience, which you saw the reactions that we had for season 3 Picard. People, I mean, I was talking to a lot of people online. A lot of people wanted to see it. Oh, I've been burned so many times. I don't have any faith it's going to be any good. And then within a few weeks, are like, oh my God, it's the Star Trek I've ever seen. So I think it's kind of like, it's like jazz, right? If you don't get it, I think if you really understand the Gestalt and all the wiring trunk of Star Trek, and it means something to you personally, you would have done look, there's a lot of things about the design I like, but it's not the Enterprise bridge, and it's not Pike's bridge either. I mean, there are things about Pike's bridge that could and should have been translated to the new bridge. That Pike bridge was designed by two guys who just got out of the Air Force, and it looks like it when you look at the bridge. It isn't till later where they get pushed to add color, where all that racy red design work goes in and stuff. I mean, it looks great, but there's just something so interesting about that original Pike's bridge. And even when you connect it to the bridge from, say, Star Trek the Motion Picture, that's in some ways seems a little more industrial as well. Yeah, that's it. It's like an industrial kind of look, Anyway,
Bring
I
the
could blather
gooseneck.
away about this forever. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Bring the gooseneck back, I say.
Hey, when I was as a kid, I went to the 1964 New York World's Fair, and they had Bell Telephone was demonstrating its video phones, and you could actually try them out. Who are you going to call? No one has one, But if you look at them, they're about this big, but they are exactly the gooseneck viewer faces. Matt Jeffrey saw those at the New York World's Fair, and so as a matter of fact, the New York World's Fair was like a ground zero for the aesthetic of the show. Matt had just come back from New York City. And so it's like those goosenecks are the Bell telephones miniaturized. Anyway, blathering away again. Sorry about that.
No, I love it. It's the whole reason that I bring you in, Doug, because fountain of knowledge and original fan as well, working on Next Gen. Let's bring it back to Picard. Getting that cast back together, as you say, you were on makeup in Next Gen, so you spent so much time, as you say, with these actors to see them back again 30 years later.
It's hard to describe what a beautiful present season 3 was for anyone who worked on the original show. I mean, it's like, wow, it's such a beautiful bow on the top of a career. It's totally impossible. How is this happening? I can't even imagine. I was amazed when Next Generation happened, and I ended up on that. I said, who would have ever guessed? How much longer can it go? But something, it could go for another 100 years. It really could.
Yeah, absolutely. And have them back and have Michael Dorn. I would imagine you and Michael would have spent a lot of time together, Klingon makeup. And,
oh my God, yeah. Jazz. He's hilarious. Michael Dorn is so funny, and he's also a sweet guy. He never forgets you. A lot of people know the story, but he used to he loved my last name, and he would say it I can't do it like him, but it's like Michael Dorn, like Drexler, and he'd go, a great Klingon name, a proper Klingon name, he says. And then one day I was walking through the backstage, and Ira Bear comes around. I got Drex on my jacket, and he goes, Drex, huh? I go, yeah, that's a nickname some people use for me. And he says, I said, Michael Dorn thinks it's a great Klingon name. And then the next day in the rewrites, there was Drex, the Klingon. I think Dorn kills him in the episode, but so when I see Dorn, like I'm going to Vegas, I'm going to see him. When he sees me, the minute he sees me, he starts that Drexler. And he used to do it anywhere. It didn't matter where it was. But anyway, yeah, Michael Dorn is wonderful, and oh my God, his reveal in Picard is so awesome. It's killer.
Yeah, absolutely. And then at the end of the mission, he falls asleep on the bridge. He does a Bernie Sanders.
Say that again.
He at the end of the mission, in the very last episode, we see him collapse in the bridge chair and fall asleep. Oh. He's an older statesman now. He's done a Bernie Sanders.
Hey, I don't blame him at all.
Absolutely, an incredible time to be back. I guess what's your hope next? Are you hoping that phone will ring and Star Trek Legacy, if and when it happens, calls you up?
Well, the thing is that I'm really like on the edge of retirement, and I only see myself maybe doing 1 or 2 more jobs. And Legacy is something that I couldn't possibly walk away from if it happens. And I have to say that working with Terry is such a fulfilling experience. On many shows I worked on, they don't want to know what I think about how something looks. On working with Terry, he hangs on, things that Mike might say or me, or he'll even write me and ask me if what I think they would do in a certain situation or how it, that is so rare, so unusual. I mean, even if it wasn't Star Trek, you have to say, working with somebody like this is just really, there's no ego there. It's just about doing the best job, and so man, I wouldn't want to pass up working with Terry again. It would be awesome to do one more season with Terry and Dave Blass. I mean, production designer Dave Blass, man, I owe that guy big time.
Absolutely. Doug, it's been incredible to catch up with you again. So much time has passed since 10 years. I know you burnt a
I
hole in
heard
the
you
sunlight
have
for
Larry
me.
Nemechek coming on.
I know. He's up next, and he's hassling the Zoom producer to get on the air and get this Drexler man off my screen, he says.
God almighty.
He can actually hear us here talking, so we better be careful.
I'm talking about me,
We love Larry. We love you too, Drex.
Hey, it's good to see you. Good to see
Doug,
you.
I
Thanks
really
for having
appreciate
me
it.
on. Don't wait so long next time.
All right, I'll try. Well, blame Larry. He's contractually obligated to appear at least twice a year.
Oh, nice.
He's not. I just say that. I love it. Doug, thank you so much for beaming in for 20 years of Trekzone. I'll give you a call beforehand, but I'll see you definitely for another live stream in 10 years' time when we celebrate 30 years.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Doug. Well, we are going to keep going, and everyone in the control room, stand by, because here we come to our next part of the morning. Don't forget about our membership. A quick plug before we go. For less than a cup of coffee per month, you'll get early access and behind the scenes. For a little bit more, you can go behind the curtain of For Your Protection. Our social media feeds are active with the latest podcast highlights. And we're on Threads now too, that new Facebook meta thing. I don't know what we're doing there yet, but we'll do something. Find Trekzone Media, like, follow and subscribe. This has been another part of our celebrating 20 years of Trekzone live stream event. Thanks for beaming in if you're doing it live, if you're catching it up on the replay as well. Thanks for doing all of that. And let's take a break and we'll come back with Larry.
Strange New Worlds continues its second season, and we're deep diving into it all with Dr. Trek next.
Just over 11 months ago, the 5 newsroom was reeling at the report of the death of one of its own. He'd been king hit 3 days earlier while filming a story on roadworks, not far from here. Kathy Bates was at the Royal Rose Hospital today, and she filed this report.
Our colleague was punched in the head and was drifting in and out of consciousness around 9 p.m. He was Channel 5's first scholarship student, and he was sent to investigate a tip-off which suggested that there was something more to the roadworks than just resurfacing. Shortly after he arrived, he was set upon by 3 workers and the site foreman. He was king hit and had to wait 20 minutes for an ambulance to arrive. The site crew working that night were arrested, but released 2 hours later and continued to walk free for 11 months, having seemingly never faced police investigation. And in fact, the company they work for, Connecting Roads, continues to receive government contracts. And today, multiple work sites around the country appear to be a cover story for a series of connecting tunnels underneath the major metropolitan centres for Australia. My sources inside the state and federal government have suggested a connection to a mysterious woman named Ellie, noting that meetings with this woman immediately precede the green lighting of construction efforts. My sources have also noted that the federal government is chipping in more money than usual for what would normally be considered normal road expansion. So, as the months roll on, more questions than answers are cropping up.
We are continuing 20 years of Trekzone, the live stream event. My auto cue has gone for a little bit of a stroll, but I can tell you that I know exactly what is happening. Lee Sargent. No, he was here earlier. It's Larry Nemechek, the other L name. I'm looking forward to all of this coming up. Let's roll the opener, Michael, because Larry Nemechek is standing by.
This is a Trekzone Conversation.
I had this whole spiel written out to talk about Strange New Worlds. But anyway, let's get into the boxes. Let's welcome our third guest for Trekzone's live stream event. Larry Nemechek is here. Larry, welcome.
Hey, Matt, thank you. What do you mean another L name? You know, I heard all that.
Well, we had Lee Sargent before. He's our talking Trek guy.
Mm-hmm.
You're our other talking Trek guy.
And an awesome guy, yes.
And an awesome guy, absolutely. As I said to Doug, you know, you're contractually obligated to appear at least twice a year.
Yeah, I was looking around for that contract when I heard that. Somehow it's gotten away from me. Your people should let my people know what's going on with that. But no, hey, listen, I want to say happy 20 years. I'm on the road here. I'm in borrowed quarters, but I'm with you and with the audience today, and just wishing you a happy 20, although I don't think we were hooked up for the first 10 of that or so, maybe 10 or 12. But anyway, I didn't realize it was that long. I mean, obviously before the podcast boom, you were under your shingle doing Trek work. So congrats.
Thank you very much. Under the corrugated iron roof of the Australian outback, as it might be. Podcasting started 2013. I believe November 2013 was actually our first chat. Doug was a satellite guest at that time, still using that LA studio, and you'd drop in and call the city for me. Did that a few times, and then Zoom and Skype kind of became the big norm. And here we are again.
Yeah, here we are.
And so much discussion as well over that time. We managed to keep talking during our fallow time, as you call it. And then Discovery came along and we had all the scoops there. And then Anson Mount rocked up in season 2, and Strange New Worlds came from that. Picard and Prodigy and Lower Decks and Legacy potentially as well if we get through this writer's strike. How are you kind of feeling?
Well,
we're here.
Are we just diving in here on current topics? Because I was just reading something in the last 24 hours. I've been curious to know, the strike update is that the writers are still on strike. They had months of negotiation before their contract expired, the way any labor situation would work. They did not reach a contract, so they had a strike authorization, which was overwhelming when they got to their deadline, and they had not been active. The talks went cold, so they know that when they hit their deadline, they'd go on strike. The actors and directors were a month behind. The directors talked, and there was thought maybe that there'd be a triple whammy strike going on, but the directors did settle, and the producers talked to the directors about some of the issues that they refused to talk to the writers about, which pissed off the writers, the WGA. But the DGA, their team signed off. Then they had their election, and they signed off without going to a strike. They had their election. It passed. About half of the membership voted, about 78%, I think, about a week ago. So the directors have settled, although there was some griping about maybe they settled too soon. And at the same time, the actors, the SAG-AFTRA actors were in this, and they're, the unions are different size and tone. The actors are the biggest one. They're the cats of the cats to be herded of this mess. Then the writers are a small group, and then the directors are kind of the smallest as a union. But and it's directors, assistant directors. I didn't know until I was reading the unit production managers. There's several levels, but the actors hit the June 30th deadline, and they agreed to continue talking. So that raised flags that maybe they would settle if they just needed some, earnest, and they, earnest talk. But they set that for July 12th. And in the last few days, and I read an actual published article where they're saying that it was not going to happen. That the thinking is now that they've got a couple of more days until the 12th here, but that nothing's going to come of it, that they're miles apart on some of the issues, and that it's looking more and more like we will have an actors strike. And the actors pre-voted an authorized strike if they didn't reach a settlement by the deadline or the extended deadline. And they were just about as decisive. So we could have an actor, and and if the actors and the writers are out on strike, it doesn't matter what the directors voted. There's no shooting going on.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. And then globally, we've seen some of the foreign guilds. I know the UK writers voted in solidarity with the WGA and said, no American producers, don't you dare come to England looking for English writers to, basically be scabs and write. And I did see where this there was a report, I think in South Korea, where some of the American producers had approached South Korean writers to maybe do some writing in lieu of striking writers, and that blew up into a thing. So anyway, that's where we are. And then when we bring it back to Star Trek, we know that for the moment anyway, none of this will affect anything until next year. That they've stopped the third season working on Strange New Worlds was partway through the year. That would resume later, but that wasn't going to be aired. We weren't going to see that until middle of next year, spring or whatever next year. And then Strange New Starfleet Academy wasn't going to debut until 2025. So this might push some of that under a little bit more stress, but that they weren't going to be shooting anyway until next year. And the Section 31 movie, or maybe a pilot movie, was set. It's been written, so they couldn't do any rewrites they couldn't do any rewrites as they shot, but it's been written. And I understand they're building sets for both of those series. Discovery's done, and they're already, they were already using cannibalizing spaces of Discovery for Strange New Worlds this season, much less something further down the line. So, and the two animated, well, I say the two animated shows, we don't know what's going with Prodigy. Hopefully it'll find a new room and a space for season 2, and then get a new season 3. But either way, it and Lower Decks, sadly, are not part of the SAG. Their writers are not SAG members. They're part of the animation group, which is the stepchild unit that no one likes being that way, but that grew out of history and the history of animation in America, being looked at as second-class writing, even though that's a thing that no one wants to have anymore, and they're trying to reverse that. But meanwhile, everybody's in solidarity, and even the IATSE, like art crews and grips and lights and all the art directors and all that, and the Teamsters, who are the drivers who have contracts with the Hollywoods, they're settled. They're not at risk of any labor action like the Animation Guild, but they're all fully in support of what's going on. And that was a long ramble to set up everything. But somewhere between the streaming revolution and the lack of transparency compared to what we used to have, and then the whole AI question. And that's what's the existential, 300-pound monster gorilla in the room. That's a horrible bunch of metaphors. Anyway, that's here, but that's the latest, is that I just saw where it looks like the actors will not settle, and we might have a double whammy strike.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I know I haven't heard too much from an Australian perspective, but we're obviously a very strong union-based country as well. Mm-hmm. So producers aren't going to be coming here looking for strike busters, because it's
at least in your entertainment industry, I'd say maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing, possibly, and it really looks like America's going to head down the path of where Australian television sort of is, with a lot of unscripted reality shows filling the airtime. All three of our commercial channels, all three of our commercial networks here run reality programming for probably 2 out of the 3 hours of the night, and that third hour is an imported US drama. So there's not a lot of scripted content going on in Australia anyway, which is really, really unfortunate. Half the Trekzone crew that work on Trekzone Media in the real world are off in Fiji at the moment on another reality show. So it's just, it's great for us on the broadcasting side because there's a lot of work, but unfortunately on the entertainment side, the writers and the directors, and there really isn't a lot of film going on as well for us. So
it can't be all Miss Fisher.
No, it cannot be. We do have a great one.
Australian.
We do have a good one. The Nation Building Authority feature in a show called Utopia, which is a half-hour comedy, and it's done by the Working Dog Productions team. It is absolutely brilliant. So if you can, check that one out.
Okay. I'll look for it. Okay.
Look,
but anyway, that's the grimy, grim side that we normally try to escape from as the reason to go into Star Trek. So, but that's affecting our lives right now. Meanwhile. And things like this Prodigy cancellation in the stateside dance of the tax evasion, the same thing that befell the Batgirl movie.
Yeah.
With Prodigy and all that. So Cadet Alice is really disappointed, but we're hoping that they land. And I've gotten to know, ironically, the strike and the Star Trek day of the strike has allowed me to get closer to some of the guys who kept their heads down while their shows were in production or even alive. Like Picard's done, Discovery is done. Some of those writers have gone on to some other shows, but as far as past work, they're out and available. And of course, everyone's walking a picket line, and they're bored, not to say bored, but they're trying to look for. Anyway, it's been a great time to actually get to know, some of these writers and some of the producers. And now Prodigy is in its hiatus time. But anyway, it's been good to get to know some of them, and through some of my platforms. I've even had a couple of the writers live on Trekland Tuesdays Live. Bill Wolkoff from Strange New Worlds was on with me once, and Aaron Welke and I talked for a long time, and he kind of educated me on the situation with modern animation and all that. So, the silver lining of a little bit of this is that a lot of these writers, and I think there were 47 million writers over the 5 seasons of Discovery, but it's been, the silver lining here is they've been able to talk to their public, and the public's been able to talk to them a little more. And we've been able to help, aside from explaining the issues, we've been able to just get to know. And it's awkward with these extended seasons when they write something one year and then it's filmed the next year. And I'm roughly estimating here. And then the next year is when the audience sees it. And so by the time they're talking about promoting their episode for a season, these little 10 episode seasons, they wrote it a year and a half ago, and then it was filmed a year ago. So they're all having to stretch their memory. But they're in the awkward place of being on the picket line, even as for the case of Picard, and especially for the Strange New Worlds, they're talking about their shows or watching them debut while they're feeling in a kind of a muted mood from being on strike. So it's not the best time to be all gung. I mean, they love their show and they're very passionate and proud of what the work they've done, but they don't exactly feel like, feeding the network promotion machine. So they do it kind of individually on their own. Anyway, it's a strange time, but good stuff.
It's a strange new world.
Strange new world.
Yeah. And the Trek Geeks are up next at the top of the hour. We're going to dive into all of that news as well, especially Prodigy. But it is such a hot button issue at the moment. I was actually talking to Aaron in some DMs the other day. I was hoping to get him on the show, but obviously with everything going on the way that it is, I don't want to spoil any chances, especially in a live stream. Not that he would, but don't.
And he has a new young little daughter that's keeping him busy.
Well, that too as well, of course. Yeah. And for some reason, she is worth far more of his time than I am, and I probably would agree with that. Just to be clear.
I hope so.
Absolutely. Look, Prodigy it's a really interesting one, and our promo on this was going to be, we were going to talk about Strange New Worlds, and we'll get there. We've got plenty of time, but I think it's worth, with you on the show, chatting about what's happening in our fandom at the moment. And Prodigy, from all accounts, season 2 was done pretty much. So striking it not just from the platform, but also getting rid of season 1 as well. And I didn't realise that the second half of season 1 wasn't quite everywhere yet.
Well, it was the second half of season 1. Well, I don't know if you're talking about the global channels. And as they had this horrible rollout of Paramount Plus vis-a-vis the current deals. Like so many of them in Europe were mad because Discovery was promoted and 3 days later yanked because one arm of Paramount didn't talk to the other arm, and they wanted to have it all on Paramount Plus, but Paramount Plus wasn't ready, which was insane. So the rest of the world was going to have it debuted, and people were supposed to stay off their socials for 9 months, which was ridiculous. So then they found the compromise of putting it on the Pluto channel with commercials, which Paramount owns. But anyway, it hasn't exactly been, just the smoothest. I mean, they just remarried CBS and Paramount. The remarriage happened, and they remerged, which was good. But oh my God, it was such a bumpy road. And I think it affects everything from the toys we see all the way to why there's no live action, fourth movie. So it's amazing. I keep telling people they're pulling their hair out, scratching their head. Why are they making, shooting themselves in the foot over the handling of some of the properties? Why do you take off the, they technically canceled 4 series on the streamer, only one of which was a Star Trek Prodigy. And they probably looked at that as the least of all the Star Treks. I don't know. But they had live actions, and the whole thing was about, tax savings. It's again, it's an issue of Warner Brothers not releasing Batgirl when it was ready to go. And supposedly to honor their tax saving and not renege on the tax promise, stick it in the vault and never show it, which is insane. You know, at some point, even if it's 100 years down the line, they will pull it out to show it. But the Prodigy situation and the other three series, someone mentioned them and I keep forgetting what they've had probably not the attention that Prodigy had, even though it's just little Prodigy because it's part of the Star Trek family. And everyone, whether they were, and you tell me if you saw this online, what happened was everyone realized that whether they were a Prodigy viewer or fan or not, basically, if they could do it to Prodigy, they could do it to my favorite show. And there's a two-step process. It wasn't just being canceled, because in the old school, we had networks to do this. And we had lots of series of all stripes go from one network to another if it was popular, if the situation was right. And this is a case where, Prodigy is co-produced by Nickelodeon, which has its own linear channel and its own app. So it could have gone home just to Nickelodeon or found a home somewhere else. But what's weird about this, so that would have been strange. And I even know people who were worried about, will the round table of all the showrunners still stay in touch if Prodigy is an orphan? And Aaron and the Hageman brothers both told me, I was DMing with them, and they said, oh yes, we would, when we land somewhere, and they're all, it's all like when, not if. When we land somewhere, we'll still be part of the Trek family, because it's also co-produced by Kurtzman and Secret Hideout. So it's like we won't be estranged from sliding our canon points and our figuring out who's doing what. So that'll still happen no matter where they land, which is good. But the wacky thing here, it's not about it's the cancellation is stupid, but it's this wiping it off the platform, which is ridiculous. And that must have been part of what the tax promise to tax save was. I don't know, but we'd never seen that. The whole point was, and people have mocked Paramount Plus for what so much for the home of all Star Trek. Wipe that out. Stop saying that, because it's not true.
Home of most Star Trek.
Yes, and the DVD only had half a season. Now, there's just been news in the last few days, which Aaron and some of them are attributing to the Save Prodigy campaign, that they're going to release the second 10 of season 1 on DVD, which were aired and were publicly accessible. But as of now, you can't see them legally. Well, now they'll be available on DVD, so people at least have the hard media. But this whole situation has made people, I said we need to have buttons that say we are all Prodigy fans now, because it's made every Star Trek legacy or especially the new shows say, well, if they can do it to Prodigy, why not next year they yank third season of Picard away, or they take away DS9 entirely, or we go from worrying about when DS9 and Voyager will get Blu-rayed and 4K'd to just wondering if there will be bits of the series that are still accessible, or they stop selling. If you've got your legacy discs, you're lucky. And we see collectors' prices go for crappy sets because they've removed everything from the vault. I mean, none of this, part of this is the whole growing pains of this streaming situation and technology and owning hard media and all that. But I swear to God, nobody saw this coming 2 years ago. Remember, we were all just toasting Paramount for giving us fresh Trek all year long?
Yeah.
And
lots of
leave it to Paramount to go back to shooting themselves in the foot and pissing off the fans. But now fans are wondering, if they could do it to Prodigy, what about my favorite? So it's a whole different mood right now.
Yeah, and it kind of trivializes a little bit the differences that we had back then with the physical media. I've got 2 copies of Star Trek Voyager because they had the steelback editions, and then they had the paperback ones. And then, I can only get the paperback, so now I've got to have the full set of that for completeness. I think, and then 4K, so TNG. I don't have the steelback TNGs, but I had the paperback ones, and then you've got to get the 4K versions. So that was the biggest worry that we had back then, and now it's just kind of like, it's on the streaming service. I pay $14.99 a month for that, so it'll always be there. And as you're saying, oh crap, now they've completely yanked Prodigy away. Okay, now we need to buy it. And we can only get the first 10 episodes. And as you're saying as well, legally.
And those were selling out, Matt. Those were selling out around the world.
Yeah. And and legally you can only watch the first 10 episodes, and now we're getting 11 to 20. Paramount, as you said, Paramount shooting itself in the foot, and it just really, I think what I see online with a lot of people that are absolutely panning Paramount, and rightfully so, is that I think somewhere along the way, sometimes some of them forget that it's a business and Star Trek isn't the only thing that they live and breathe. And most of these decisions are made by accountants who are looking at spreadsheets.
Mm-hmm. Right. And see, what we were talking about too is we're still dealing with the effects. I may have mentioned it. We're still dealing with it. It feels like it's been 2 years maybe now, but the remarriage, they were apart for 15 years, and there are still people figuring out, not just about different turfs overlapping and figuring out whose department is going to stay and whose is going to be let go, like on the CBS side or the Viacom Paramount side, different every accounting and promotion and license. That's just part of it. But part of it is when you've had this much turnover. I mean, we know. Look, I just think of the arms of Paramount that I deal with. On one hand, the good news is, as I say, they've hired so many more people finally with all these treks and all this stuff. But the bad news is they've hired so many new people. And there's a lot, people who just come to Star Trek, and it should just be on the business side. It should just be a job. But where we benefit from when there are fans in key places all through the corporation, or at least people that have relationships with everything from, the media, the fan media, the licensees, the people in media who are the key, the big outlets, people who run events, just all the different kind of licensees, and the people who aren't licensees are like who used to be like Creation or Destination. I mean, or independents around the world, everything up and down the line. Well, when you brought so many people in, they don't know each other, much less all these people who are part of the Star Trek world. And it's a lot like the Queen and her prime ministers that way. I mean, a lot of us have been here for years. They're the ones who come and go. And there are times when, and this has happened over the years, and the last big one was when we had the divorce and we lost so many people. And suddenly there were a handful of people who were new, who didn't know each other, much less who was left standing among licensees and media, much less the whole tenor of what Star Trek fandom was like and how it was different than Star Wars or Marvel or, as we know, as any vendor at a Comic-Con who deals with several franchises will tell you, the Star Trek fans are the nicest fandom. Which excuse me, you may be forgiven for thinking that with some of the online crap. But by and large, the armchair fans, the convention-going fandom is a different tone to it than a lot of the other fandoms. But people who, if they come from pop culture in a corporate side, or maybe they don't come from pop culture at all, they have no idea about that, and they don't have any sense of who they're dealing with, and they just come at it with a very neutral perspective on making business decisions. And that, they're human. Nobody's coming in as evil, but there's just this learning curve. So it's almost like the price you pay for growing, as we had the first few years of CBS All Access / Paramount, when they were adding treks all the time and things were growing and there were growing pains and they needed more people. There was that growth pang. And then now it's just amazing. It's those days when things were steady, like in the 90s, when the fandom and the corporate side knew each other and there was a lot of stability, the old days before the merger or the separation. And then even after we got used to the separation, we had a little bit of the fallow years and the first year or two of Discovery. But anytime there's a major disruption, Star Trek means so many things to so many people, both with money attached and just as an armchair follower, that all of that affects everything from the top to the bottom. And I'm repeating myself, I know, but it's just amazing. Some of these issues that we have in totally unrelated areas, I still go back and say these are ripple effects from all the disruption, whether for good or for bad, the disruption that we've been going through. And of course, now the whole industry is disrupted. So, then there's that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're still feeling those the waves, the disruptions from that merger. They still don't quite know what everything is. Contracts are in place that have to be honoured, and they start expiring, and all these sort of things. I think that yeah, there's still years ahead, and there's still all of that negative press that they're going to cop, and who knows what they're going to do next, and only they know, and where do these decisions come from, because at the end of the day, with all these streaming services, you need people to pay for them, and you need to stand out from the other streaming services. And how do you do that with the Star Trek fan? Well, you put Star Trek on, and then you just arbitrarily yank it without access to all 20 episodes. You don't want to promote piracy, but you're promoting piracy.
I think, and I got this confirmed. I mean, here's the best example of this whole, the remerger, the remarriage, and the ripple effects of people not know. You know, you remember how the Starship was landing?
Yes.
A year ago, we had that wonderful marketing campaign that I'm sure, and I kind of got this confirmed, that a think tank sitting around a table just thought that was the greatest thing since sliced Bajoran bread or something. And we all mocked it and ridiculed it. You know, we were all waiting for the DS9 is landing or something. And it was kind of just quietly taken away after about a week of being, you know, laughed at solidly online. Well, that's the kind of thing that comes out when you have even earnest people who don't know what they're doing, don't know what they're dealing with. Anyway, I laugh at that because that's something we all still laugh about. And I'm waiting for the day when all the fill in the blank is landing is going to be like, it'll be like the Spock helmet of this era.
Yes.
It'll be really ridiculed at the time, but then 20 years from now, people say, "Oh, I have the DS9 is landing, you know, sticker. I have a DS." Anyway.
Well, Larry, in our last quarter of our chat, let's dive into Strange New World Season 2. That's probably the positivity coming out of our fandom at the moment, putting aside everything else. But we're up to episode 4. We've kind of got these character stories happening. We've seen everyone come along, and we didn't see Anson at the beginning, but I think that was explained away by having a real life child.
Seems to be a Star Trek baby boom happening, so yay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. I'm amazed. It feels like we're back. In some ways, the Picard season 3 kind of took us out of the standard mold, and even to the point where Strange New Worlds season 2, or I'm sorry, season 1, the debut season, was like this. Oh my God, what happened to the crisis of the week? People were so in love with the cast, the characters, and a return to the more or less standalone stories, and each story having a different tone. We had comedy, we had horror, we had fantasy, we had mysteries, and even when there were like, oh really, these are Gorn? Well, I retconned that pretty quickly and was able to explain that, and I still haven't had a good chat with Davey Perez, but I have it in my head what I think they're doing and where to go, and they're accessible, and you'd see them being interviewed a lot and talking about the thought process and things, and for Strange New Worlds. But then I was watching Picard unroll, and and that bar went up here, and I've been thinking this whole time, ever since the debut of the Star Trek Legacy campaign and all that, I was really praying and hoping that we wouldn't have the clash of the fandoms here, because I didn't want this Toronto, LA, or this East Coast, West Coast, unintended rival. Like the fans get so froth-mouthed about both of them that, or it becomes a competition. It's like, no, there's room for both. Well, now with the industry retrenching, there may not be room for both all at once. And Section 31 might be a movie, but they might be looking at it as a movie that actually might be a backdoor, a pilot to a series, just probably without Michelle Yeoh because she's so in demand past the pilot. So it was almost like a curse that Picard was so good and the tsunami of love for it, because I was wondering, that tsunami of love that we saw for the first time with Strange News premiere. So that's kind of resettled now. I don't think we came to a civil war over that, but what's interesting to watch Strange New is Strange New Worlds. And I told you, I have a hard time saying all 3 names, so I just call it Strange New all the time. But it's been interesting. Aside from the whole Anson thing and a few other issues, like they mentioned this last year and it was in the pilot, but they've really retconned the eugenics wars to be 40 years down the line and kick that can down the road just for sanity's sake. And that's something they're going to deal with a little bit too. But the different tones of shows. We have a courtroom drama. We've got a time travel, more of a time anomaly than a time travel. I mean, they're back in time. But this last week we had not so much a horror thriller, but a kind of like a Twilight Zone kind of a study.
Yeah.
And they're back to showcasing how they can do different tones and still have some running threads of running arcs, but it's character arcs, not story arcs. So we're not anywhere near to a serialized season the way Discovery and even Picard had. So anyway, I think the waters have resettled a little bit. What struck me is how I'll see one person talk about episode 4 is their favorite of the year, and someone else talk, no, not episode 4, episode 3 was my favorite. And people say, well, I really, maybe it's a sign of that they're hitting all the right notes because different people are, they're comparing, they're contrasting, comparing, and people like the season overall. They still enjoy the show, but it's striking different people different ways. And the more the weeks have stretched out now, 4 going on 5 weeks, I've seen, I don't know about you, but I've seen that reaction from people. And, I'm not into keeping score. I'll eventually come up with a favorite, but some people are so intense about keeping everything ranked. And I'm just sitting back and enjoying. I call it, and I have my second opinion show that I do that's out by Saturdays, where I let the first wave of reviews and reaction go by, but it's still my first take on things. I just let a couple of days go by in case there's a weird fandom reaction somewhere that I can talk about too. And I've been enjoying all of them for different reasons. And we hadn't even got to the Lower Decks crossover show yet, which is going to be number 7. So anyway, I'm enjoying it, and I've seen people saying, well, these are good shows, but boy, it's sure not as good as their first year. And I'm like, really? You're going to say that after 4 episodes? Really? So, that's all still, that's what gets me is after this is done, we'll probably have Lower Decks. Prodigy's been yanked. So now it will be, they bumped Discovery to celebrate the 5th season a little more since it's the last. It won't be out till the spring. So we've gone in 1 year from having Trek almost every week of the year, or even overlapping, to we're going to get to the end of Lower Decks here in fall and have maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months before we have any, we got spoiled. But for right now, we're enjoying Strange New Worlds. And I think people are remembering what they enjoyed about it. Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And focusing on these characters, I remember we've talked about this as well. And Lee and I chatted on Talkin' Trek with Discovery that we didn't know the bridge crew for a good couple of seasons. In fact, it was guest captain Pike coming in and going around the bridge for me to actually go, oh, that's that character's name. Oh, that's that character's name. Here in Strange New Worlds, we're hitting it off the bat and we are caring about this character so much. Most recently, episode 3 with time travel and we've got La'am and we're really rooting for her in the end. And it was fun to watch, having the press screeners in advance, so knowing what episode 3 was going to be and just watching all that fan reaction to those first photos with Paul Wesley back as Kirk. And obviously the whole reason that they had to reveal who he was back before the series even began. And how's this going to work? This is never going to work. Chatting with you and working out, well, it actually does work because at this time he's over here and he's doing this and we don't necessarily know too much. Do we need to be here? That's a question for a whole other topic, but, in this time of the timeline. But we are here with Strange New Worlds, and we are going to see the real Captain Kirk. Will the real Captain Kirk please stand up? We've seen 2 versions of him, and we'll eventually see that prime version very, very soon. Right. Both
of these versions of Kirk have been alternate universe, and again, it's younger. We're still 6 years before Where No Man, and he looks a little younger in Where No Man than he does. Well, he's a year younger than he is in first season, the production run. Man Trap and all, but he's 6 years younger in Strange New right now than he is in Where No Man's Gone Before. So there's that. But I would never wish Paul Wesley any ill health, but I still wish he would put on just a little more poundage and let his hair be browner than it, a little lighter than it is. But it's going to grow. But yeah, we're waiting to see the prime Kirk. Although there's a lot of fandom that says, why do we keep having Kirk at all? Can this just not be Pike's show? I was saying the same thing when they were going to replace, it was sad to lose Hemmer, But I was saying, please, please, please don't bring Scotty in. It canonically could have happened. Now, the doctors are a different thing. We're supposed to have, Piper first for Kirk. Now, maybe there's some dancing around and McCoy is in and out or something bizarre happens. But, we went from Boyce and Mbenga and then Piper and then McCoy, and then Mbenga is as a staff doctor. He comes back just to treat Spock, which, if they handle that right, could be a fascinating story thread. I'm looking forward to hopefully them having a lot of fun with that. Same thing with Chapel and Spock and T'Pring, and then Chapel leaving to go chase not chase, but I mean go after Roger Corby. There's a lot of, I'm waiting for supposedly 2 years away, Spock and Layla Kalomi on Earth is a thing, right? From this side of paradise. So, and those were all dated, and they may get away from visuals, sadly, but they've been pretty good with concept canon, at least. So I'm waiting to see how they handle all that. But it's a mix. It isn't just those people were really concerned about the legacy characters, and Uhura's in that bunch too. But I'm still waiting for them to bring Sybok back. That's the one moment that I fell off my chair. Could not believe they went there. And of course, all they did was show a guy from the back with a beard who was a Vulcan, misfit in a prison. And I'm like, I can't believe they're doing this. But, that old thing, and I'd hear even Ira and Ron say this back in the day after the run when we were in the fallow years and speculate what a new Trek would look like. And I would actually hear them say, "Oh, the canon, it's such an anchor around your," and I'm like, "Really, Ira, Ron, you guys are saying this? You're saying that, it's like, look at the novelist. The novelist had no problems. It's like, canon can be your friend. Canon is not scary. It's all these toys to play with, and there's still plenty of places to go where you don't have to. It's you people hanging around the edges of what's known that feel shackled. Go to the time eras. I don't mean centuries. I mean, go in between Kirk and Picard, go in between Archer and Kirk, and go to some pick a theme of what's happening in history and go there. And canon is going to only obliquely affect you. So anyway, we now have writers working on all the modern shows, increasingly so. And probably Terry is the apex of that on Picard, that have no problem, figuring that out. And I've talked to Henry Alonso Myers a little bit on Strange New Worlds, and Bill Wolkoff a little bit, thanks to the strike. And they know what's going on. Part of the problem may just be that they're kind of in a big committee, and about the time you think who's the top dog to make the decisions, there might be a corporate top dog on top of them that's talking about spending money or what they can do, and not just like Terry wanted to have, Kate give the captain's bars to Jarrett, to 7 to 9, or they wanted to have Kira come in and beam Ro off at the last minute before, instead of just dying. So and we can still play with those, if they ever get Star Trek Legacy back, they can still play with those things. And, Terry said that. So I don't know, I'm rambling here, but
what I love is chatting with Jess Bush last year when she came out for a convention. Of course, Nurse Chapel, Aussie's Jess Bush, Homegirl, and Homegirl here in Brizzy as well. That they actually have, as part of the staff on set, is a canon officer, for lack of a better word, who's actually sitting there. Because I remember chatting with the actors from the 90s, a couple of them talking about how it was very rigid. The scripts were very rigid. There was no ad-libbing. There was no changing a little bit of dialogue because of inflection or whatever else.
You had to call Rick Berman's office in the middle of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we get away with that, or do we need to reshoot it? Now we're sort of a little bit more lax, but there's actually someone sitting there with the script and with apparently memory alpha on an iPad or something like that, and just going, no, we can't actually do that, and that's not happening there. They're also in the writer's room doing all of that sort of stuff as well. It's really interesting to hear that, especially with the constant complaints of that vocal minority talking about how they don't know anything about canon, they're not Star Trek fans, and blah, 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 and yet you hear all of that, and you talk to Aaron and all these people, Terry, who are massive Trekkies, and having Doug on the show and just going, mate, the things that they did in Picard season 3, I was back on the bridge of the Enterprise from 1987. So it's like, clearly they're doing the right things here, and I think it's fantastic to know that there is that
canon.
devotion.
Canon isn't concrete. canon is guardrail. It's like anything else. They say know the rules so that when you break a rule, you do it intelligently. And in this case, they're not rules. Canon is just writing down everything that's happened before so that you don't forget it, so that you don't make stupid mistakes. But if you want to, if you want to thread a needle on something, if you're really there might be a more elegant way to do it, a more impactful way. But at least, when they came in and made Michael the other foster daughter for the Sarek family, it fit. Now you might not have liked it, and you may, and anybody that jumped up and said, we never talked about his foster sister before. Well, we never talked about Cybok either, and that made people mad in 1989. Spock never had a brother. What is? But it fit, and so everything they did, and to the point where it actually gave you more gravitas, and you could talk about here's poor Sarek, who we think is this pinnacle of Vulcanness. But instead, he's tried to manipulate his two kids through the Vulcan Science Academy, and the one that he wanted to do walked away, and the one that he didn't care about was turned away, and he winds up with nothing. And it's like, well, that Sarek is really a twisted guy. And it's like, well, let's just step back and look at the whole freaking Vulcan species culture, because we all were so spoiled with Spock being Mr. Perfect, even though he struggled. But it's like, the Vulcans are just like everybody else. And they, and some of the stuff we yelled about with Enterprise, you step back. I mean, some of it, Manny did fix in the fourth season, but he fixed it he retconned. Oh, the Romulans are interfering. Oh, that's why. Okay. But this thing about, we have to have canon. People say, oh, forget canon. So no, you have to know what happened. You have to know your history to go forward. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to find new ways to, overlay texture. You can't stagnate. You can't just go back to the same old expectation for 50 years. That's how you stagnate. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, looking forward to I know you got the press screeners. Whereabouts are you up to with watching everything?
The last couple of weeks we've been traveling so much, it's been insane. I'm really like on the week, and guys that edit my second opinion are yelling, can you please do one a week ahead of time? It's like, I'm trying. So no, and all the people out there that want to shoot me for having me not watching, but it keeps it a little fresh. I don't want to get too far ahead. I want to kind of be in sync,
Yeah, we watched the first 6 here in the Trekzone family, and now I'm just kind of sitting there, just going, of course I did. But now I'm sitting there going, hurry up, week 6, because we need to get back into it. And of course they finished it for us Trekkies.
What's fun has been watching all 20 of season 2 of Prodigy.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not.
Paramount will do that one day.
They'll come back and they'll love us. Had you for a nanosecond.
We're trying to listen to you. I love it, Larry. Always great to chat with you. That is a little bit of 3/4 of an hour chatting about all of the current happenings in Star Trek. You are a fountain of knowledge. You always have been. It's been absolutely thrilling to chat with you over 10 years of podcasting, and especially today as well. Let's remind everyone of where they can find you when you get back home and stop traveling.
Just LarryNemecek.com will get you there, but the Trek Files from Roddenberry on Tuesday, Trekland Tuesdays live cast on Tuesday afternoon at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. Second Opinion now is a thing as long as there's fresh episodes of a series on Saturdays. And of course, Portal 47 for your backstage monthly experiences and guests, and the Trekland Treks day tours. You can start there.
Such a busy man. I appreciate a little bit of your time, and especially now while you're traveling as well. Larry, thanks for beaming in this morning. We'll catch you again real soon.
Thank you, Matt. Again, congratulations on 20 years in Trek well.
Thank you very much, my friend. Well, just before we roll that next stinger, don't forget about membership. For less than a cup of coffee per month, you'll get early access and behind the scenes. For a little bit more, you can go behind the curtain For Your Protection, our next sci-fi series coming up. Our social media feeds are active with the latest podcast highlights, and we're on Threads now too, that thing from Meta, Facebook, whatever it is, the Twitter alternative. We'll do something there as well. All of these live shows will be available throughout this week, and we'll have those podcast highlights as well, so you'll never miss a moment. Find Trekzone Media across social media. Like, follow and subscribe. This has been another part of our celebrating 20 years of Trekzone live stream. Stand by, another one right after this.
The Trek Geeks are here. They're standing by and we'll be returning to celebrating 20 years of Trekzone right after this.
That announcer, he's amazing. The Trek Geeks are here. Oh, I know.
No time to lose. We are live this morning, and the Trek Geeks are back. I'm very much looking forward to this. Together for only the third time on Trekzone, these two fine gentlemen have been constant companions on my podcasting journey, and today we're diving into all the latest Star Trek news.
This is a Trekzone Conversation.
Gentlemen, let's bring you straight in. Thank you very much for beaming in our last but by no means least guests on today's 20th anniversary live stream.
Good morning.
20 years. Congratulations, man. That is a fantastic achievement.
20 years, it's amazing because I think you started when you were probably 60 and now that means you're 80 and you're looking damn good.
Getting old. I tell you what, whoever designed this set without a seat should be shot. 3 hours on my feet. This is ridiculous. Bill, Dan, I really appreciate your time, guys. I know that we've been trying for a few months to get together and have a chat. Yes. I'm still a little disappointed that in 2019 when we met in Vegas, I was only doing audio back then because that was a hoot.
Well,
it was a great time.
We don't have faces for television, so yeah. I think that was a good thing, and now here we are. So I don't know.
We apologize to everybody who hasn't had coffee yet to see these faces first thing. Just know that we empathize. We really do.
Faces your mother loves, I believe, and your partners.
Allegedly.
Well, guys, let's get started because we're going to be talking about the latest Star Trek news. And, you know, you can't have guests on a stream like Doug Drexler or Larry Nemechek without diving into Star Trek news. But that's kind of what we're here for. I think the hot button issue at the moment, as Larry especially has been talking about, has been Prodigy, completely yanked from Paramount Plus. Bill, let's start with you. What was your first reaction when the news broke?
I was kind of dumbfounded, because this is something that Paramount owns. They own Nickelodeon, they own Paramount Plus. It's not like, it's a licensing thing necessarily. They took a show that's been really popular with a younger audience of Trekkies, and they got rid of it simply due to a tax technicality. The worst part is you can't watch it anywhere right now, especially the remaining, the back 10 episodes of the season, because they haven't been released on DVD or Blu-ray yet. So people can see the first 10, and the next 10 allegedly don't come out till September.
Which is just ridiculous, really.
It really is. Yeah.
I don't understand that. Yeah.
It's a boneheaded move by Paramount. I understand that, they could have, they need to restructure things, and that's totally fine. Move it to Pluto TV. They own that too. Move it to anywhere else. Or make sure there's some kind of plan in place before, you sort of jettison the content. It doesn't give fans a whole lot of confidence in Star Trek right now as Paramount's producing it, because we've already said goodbye to 3 series in recent weeks. Star Trek Picard, they announced the cancellation of Star Trek Discovery, and now they've yanked Prodigy. So really we're left with Lower Decks, which is coming into its 4th season, I think, this August.
Yep.
And then Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And I have no confidence that Lower Decks will be around next year. I want it to be, but at this rate, based on what Paramount's doing, I think all bets are off.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, your thoughts on the cancellation here?
Yeah, Bill was kind in his word and description being dumbfounded. I was downright disgusted. I have to agree 100% with something that Will Wheaton posted in the days after Prodigy was canceled, and that this is capitalism at its worst, in that it is nothing more than greed. The executives in whatever department decided to make this move for the tax break that Bill was talking about, and it all comes down to the mighty dollar. And when something like that happens, how can you say that you love the fans of the shows that you put out? We love the shows Prodigy was fantastic, Emmy nominated, fantastic cast, bringing new generations of Star Trek fans into the fold, and they pull the plug on it at a moment's notice and completely surprise everybody, from fans to the Hageman brothers. It's horrendous. I'm really pretty pissed off about it. I hope that it finds a home, because not only do the fans deserve it, the people that have put in their blood, sweat, and tears in creating a fantastic show deserve it as well.
And the whole thing with Prodigy for me was that we went forward. We started with these kids in the Delta Quadrant in a mine, a complete departure from everything that had been. And then we get into this back half that has been released to some parts of the world, and it is coming in September, which is a ridiculous amount of time, but I guess you've got to press the DVDs. But we get into this back 10 where we've got Voyager, what happens after Voyager, and we've got Janeway Chakotay's there as well, and he's actually there, and we're getting all of these people. It's not just Next Gen that's getting all this love. For me, I said it as well on Trekzone on a podcast or three, that it really became what the Clone Wars was to Star Wars fans. We just got this fleshing out in supposedly a kid show. We got this fleshing out of adult Trek, which was just incredible.
One of the things that Bill said. I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
I think that was its greatest potential. Honestly, was to be Star Trek's Clone Wars and Rebels sort of combined. And now the opportunity is lost. We can only hope that it gets picked up by some service wanting to, pay the licensing to do it. I'm secretly hoping that Amazon wants to put it on Prime. I know Jeff Bezos doesn't run Amazon anymore, but he is a Star Trek fan and was in Star Trek Beyond, simply just because he's Jeff Bezos. So, I mean, hope springs eternal, but I want to see season 2, and I think that the fans of Prodigy do too. It's a definite shame.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it really is hard to be supportive of Paramount and all of Star Trek, especially with social media these days and the access that these naysayers have and the platforms that they're on and what they're spouging, and we're here trying to be supportive of the product. Then the product goes and does this. The production, the accountant goes and does this. I've seen Starrect on Twitter recently. He's the guy that does the parody songs of Star Trek, and he's just absolutely lambasting Paramount and just calling for the return and calling for almost a boycott of stuff, because there's no reason to this, and there's no, aside from this tax break, the money, there's barely any money involved in this. When you look at something like Discovery at $8 million an episode, you're not looking at that sort of figure for Prodigy. And not only that, but pulling everything off and then completely ignoring it, stripping it from your bio on social media while you still try and espouse to be the home of Star Trek and all this sort of stuff. It just makes it really difficult for us as podcasters to be supportive in this moment.
I'm not really sure what's going on over at Paramount and CBS, and I don't want to cause a bad relationship. We love the stuff that they've done for Star Trek over the years. I just don't know who's controlling what over there. Their media department, after this happened and they pulled the plug on Prodigy, a couple of days later, season 4 of Enterprise disappears off of Paramount Plus for a certain amount of time. Right. And then when it comes back, there's a couple episodes from season 3 missing. I mean, I just don't get it. We are some of the most hardcore fans of any genre out there, and to treat the fan base like this is really quite insulting. And it's not going to be me, but I can guarantee you they're going to lose fans over what's been going on simply because they don't seem to care about what we love so much, and it's very disheartening.
Yeah,
I agree with that. We used to say, or we said recently on Trek Geeks, for the last several years, we said we are in the best time to be a Star Trek fan. And Dan and I are both at a point now where we think that time now has passed us by. We're out of the golden age of Star Trek. They're starting to contract the franchise a little bit. And it's troubling because, we could be in those fallow times again where there's nothing new. I mean, who knows if Strange New Worlds will get anything beyond 3 seasons at this point. I can only hope, because I want it to run for a very long time. But for streaming, the odds just don't hold there.
Yeah, they don't. And it is such a fickle market as well. And as I was saying to Larry just before, it almost seems like we still have these remnants of the remarriage of Paramount and CBS, and we've got some legacy things that are happening, and maybe what was kind of agreed on and potentially a gentleman's agreement before is now kind of been torn up, and but in the meantime, we're sitting in the background here just going, but you promised us all this Trek. We still haven't seen Star Trek every week of the year yet, which was promised when just after Discovery was premiered, and that was so close. And it was going to be this year as well.
It's funny, Matthew, to me, it doesn't seem that it's just Star Trek where we're seeing this. I understand if they need to save money or something like that, great. Cut the shows that don't have the fans, that are way over budget, that just don't have that love that something like Star Trek does. I've heard horror stories about what's going on over with Yellowstone and complete disasters of having convention-like appearances, and nobody from the show shows up, and nobody knows how to answer the fans' questions. I don't know what's going on, but if you've got a company that's being, I can tell you, if I was running a company like that, I'd get kicked off. I'd get fired by the board. So I'm not really sure what's going on, and I hope they can get their act cleaned up because the people deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to our next hot button issue, the writer strike that is continuing. It's impacted Strange New Worlds Season 3. Any sort of potential for Star Trek Legacy is probably up in smoke right now as well. I mean, we're talking about taking Prodigy off the platform as well. I think it's highly unlikely, if not at all, sub-zero percentage possibility for a new series to come along, let alone a live-action series as well. So, writer strike, hearing from Larry that potentially we've got actors walking off sets as well in coming weeks.
Yeah, we sure do. And I'm not surprised, and I support it 100%. We've been very,
Absolutely.
Supportive of the writers. We definitely support the actors going out to support the writers. I wish the directors would do the same. But they, the producers and the studios need to hear the message. There needs to be pay equity. You can't expect people to write for next to nothing, and to have to worry about where the next gig is coming from, or to write under horrible conditions and make millions upon millions or maybe billions of dollars off a franchise and not reimburse the people who made the thing. And it's just you would think it would be elemental at this point. I mean, that's part of the reason why here in the States we have unions, is to make sure that people get paid fairly. But apparently Hollywood still hasn't gotten the message, and that's pretty disheartening.
Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Bill. Everybody on our network is 100% behind the writers. We believe in them. Now, look, the people who act on the shows that we see every weekend, we love so much, they have nothing unless the people with these unbelievable imaginations are putting these stories in their mind onto paper and have it developed into an episode. And they deserve the recognition. They deserve the pay. They deserve everything that they are fighting for right now. And I agree with Bill. I think it's fantastic that so many actors and a lot of Star Trek people that we love so much have been out there supporting all of these writers. But I, for one, would love to see the directors and even producers out there showing their support as well.
Don't mind Ahsoka in the background as a car drives past the Trekzone garage. But that's okay. We are live. That's proof positive. And I just love seeing in the background there, I've got the control room staff just running around going, shush, shush. That's right. We'll bring her along later on. Look, it is, and what's really interesting as well, and not as widely not reported really at all, but I do know I still have union contacts here in Australia from my time when I worked at Channel 10, which was bought out first by CBS in 2017. The remarriage happened. Paramount took over international television and kind of gave Channel 10 the Channel 5 in the UK vibe, which was not doing anything and not having any money, which is quite unfortunate. They are actually going through enterprise bargaining negotiations now as well. It's really interesting to see some updates from there where the Channel 10 network in Australia had the best redundancy packages in television. You actually got quite a lot of time. I was a party to that when I was made redundant in 2021. They actually want to strip all of that away. So for me working for 10 years, I got 10 years of pay, or not 10 years of pay, but I got an amount for each year of service that I had, plus all of my leave entitlements, which is the great thing about Australia. That was a very high bar that they'd set. They've stripped all of that out. We've got inflation at about 7% here in Australia. They want to do a 1.5% pay rise, which isn't matching inflation. So it's really interesting to have the writers have those negotiations with SAG and the Writers Guild, and hearing what's happening in the States. And it's clearly the same accounting department that is looking at all of this. It might be the international division, but there's only one accounting team, I would imagine, looking over the whole budget to know that that's what they're doing here as well. It's this whole constriction. I said it to Larry as well, or I said it to Doug, that we had this time where Netflix came along and we just gave all the content to Netflix. We'll just be the studio. Oh, hang on, you're getting a lot of user data there. We could use that to do a lot of good stuff, surreptitiously or whatever else. So we'll start our own streamer. And now we're back to this position where there's a whole bunch of streamers vying for attention. Paramount Plus want to go and yank Prodigy off the air. Why should I renew my subscription? I can find other ways of watching Star Trek. Not that we endorse them.
No, definitely not. I mean, I'm lucky that I still have physical media for pretty much everything that's come out, because I can still watch it whenever I want to. And that's why we have always stressed on our show the importance of physical media. Have the DVD in your hand, as my copy of Lower Decks is right here, because nobody can take that away from you. There's not a licensing agreement or a tax break or some other negotiation that's going to see that content evaporate from your home library. And I mean, the nice thing about Paramount is they do keep putting these streaming shows out on physical media, unlike, say, Disney, that has not done it with the new Star Wars entries since they started them.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I would probably have. I have all 6 movies in that nice steel-bound collection, the 4K remasters of Star Wars. It'd be great to continue that collection. My physical media is not kind of on display at the moment. It's in a cupboard, but it is still there. And as you say, if I want to go and watch that, and I want to watch it in a good resolution and not be a party to Australian internet conditions, I can do that. I can put a Blu-ray into a Blu-ray player and watch it on my 4K television. You can't do that. As you say, you can't do that with Star Wars. Dan, have you got Lower Decks? Have you got Prodigy?
Yes, I do have the media that's available, and I will be looking forward to getting the rest of the media. The thing that's really just so aggravating, and I'm not even involved in Prodigy, is season 2's done. Why yank something off the air when it's done? There's very few bits of post-production that need to be done so that this story can continue for another season. And to not only not have the second half of season 1 available on your own platform, and then you say, we're not going to have it going forward at all, and there's a season sitting on a desk somewhere that is just ready to be released for millions of fans to watch, it's unconscionable. I hope we get to see it. I really hope that whoever is working on finding another home for Prodigy finds it. I don't know all the legalities of how they're going to get a license to do it, because they don't own the IP, and how's it going to get on another platform. But I hope it gets done, because we deserve to see season 2. Right, Bill?
I know where the content is. They're with the Axanar patches sitting on a desk somewhere. Did I really just lay into Axanar in a discussion of news? Yes, I did.
Someone did it, and it wasn't me.
You're welcome, world.
Well, I think we now know the Trek Geeks stance on that production, if we didn't know already.
Yeah.
Production? They've made something?
Wow. Well, Christian Gossett did.
Well, yes, he did, and he did an amazing job.
He did.
I love how that just went that way.
You're welcome. That's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, isn't it funny that I can celebrate 20 years of a website, 10 years of podcasting with 1,085 episodes in the catalogue, and little old guy in Lawrenceville can't do 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you see, the reason why you could do those things, Matt, is because you know how to do them. I think that's really the big separator here.
The only disappointment for me is that I haven't consistently crowdfunded and had a Patreon where people have been paying to put tyres on my car. Anyway, we're not here to talk about him. Let's quickly divert over to Strange New Worlds, 4 episodes in.
Yes.
Your thoughts, Bill?
I've seen the first 6. Dan, I know you've seen 5, or you started 5?
I've seen 4.
Oh, come on, Dan, hurry up. Even I've seen 6.
I know, really.
What?
I've seen for the first 4 episodes and 10 minutes of episode 5. I actually was watching it before I ran up here. So,
quitter.
How good? And how good is it? I mean, we are under embargo for 5 and 6, but we can lightly say, well, we can say that we've seen them, and we can lightly say that they're still just as good and progressing this kind of episode, character-focused episodes.
I like season 2 very much. I this last episode, the one that just premiered with the Among the Lotus Eaters, where they're back on Rigel 7. I thought it was right. I didn't automatically love it like I did the 13 episodes that preceded it. I thought it was probably the weakest episode to date for me, but that doesn't mean in Trek Geeks parlance that it's a skip it, because I don't think it is. I just think it's not as strong an episode for me. And I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times at this point. Other than that, I think season 2 is off to a great start. I look forward to people catching up to 6, because I think the next 2 episodes are really quite fantastic. Dan.
Sorry. You keep me busy on stuff to do with Trek Geeks, which I never get to even finish anyway, so... But I got to agree. I do have to agree with Bill. The episodes that I've seen, I've very much enjoyed. I did like the Lotus Eaters episode a little bit more than Bill. I really enjoyed Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I'm going to watch it again tomorrow. But Christina Chong is just absolutely fantastic in that episode, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a Captain Kirk from our own timeline. I mean, I know we saw him on her pad when she called him at the end of the episode. But the only episodes that we've gotten a lot of Mr. Wesley's Captain Kirk has been in alternate timelines, which is kind of interesting. So I hope we get to see him a little bit more going forward. And as Larry said, he needs to put on a little bit more weight and change his hair color. But he's doing a great job. I have enjoyed season 2 very much. I do love the fact that they are back to that episodic character-driven episodes. 1 character per episode so far this season, I thought, has been great. And that's another perfect example of what the writers are doing. They are doing fantastic stories. They deserve that recognition. And it has flown from season 1 into season 2, and I think they're doing a hell of a job.
I think the issue with Paul's hair is that Anson has stolen the entire budget.
He's stolen everybody's hair.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean,
that's why Christina can only have a ponytail.
Yeah. I don't think Paul Wesley needs to beef up a little bit, because, I mean, let's be honest. There are a couple of seasons of the original series where Shatner's, probably using some kind of slimming device under his uniform to make him look more Captain Kirkish. I think Paul Wesley's doing a fantastic job. And I say, let him do what he's doing, because he gets Kirk.
Yeah,
he does. And the chemistry between the 2 of them in that episode was really something. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. I think there was a great little clue that we're going to see more of them together, especially when they focused in on that watch at the end of the episode a couple weeks ago. So I am looking forward to seeing him more as Captain Kirk as the series progressive. And as Bill said, I want it to go a lot more than 3 seasons, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that things will continue. I'd love to see at least 7 from Strange New Worlds.
Absolutely. Bill, we know what Dan's talking about, don't we? We've seen all 6.
We do. Oh,
we can't say anything because we're under embargo.
Question answered.
Dan, we know. I tell you what, Dan, when you catch up, we can talk openly. Yeah.
Guys, I should also mention as well, we're fast approaching your bedtimes over there in the US Eastern Time Zone. So I do want to touch on 300 episodes of the Trek Geeks. You guys were far too busy for us to talk about it at the time, but you've cracked 300 episodes. It's not my 1,085, but it's still pretty good. It's probably a little bit better produced, maybe, dare I say?
No, probably not, because I know the guy who produces it. Right here. It's weird to think that we're 300 episodes, because in many ways, and Dan, I don't know if you agree with this, I really kind of feel like we just started, and it was 8 years ago that we started. So we probably would have hit 300 episodes a lot longer ago if we, really kept to the episode per week. But, life happens, pandemics happen. I'm just excited that we're still around and that people still really enjoy listening to the show, because that's really what keeps me going personally. It's fun to talk about Star Trek. It's always fun to talk with Dan. It has been for our 25 years of friendship, but to get the feedback and to hear how much people enjoy listening to the show and laugh and feel like they're part of the discussion in the room really is the most amazing thing. And I am grateful for it every day.
Dan, what's it like to know that people actually keep tuning in to listen to your opinions?
I will never understand it. I mean, 300 episodes. I remember when we first started, and Bill asked me if I wanted to do a podcast, and my answer was literally no. What's a podcast? I just had no idea what it was. And then he said, "Okay, so we're going to start this. Just to let you know, podcast if you make it more than 10 episodes, you're doing pretty good." And now we're sitting at over 300 as we talk here today. I'll never understand it. We're just two geeks living in New Hampshire that talk about the passion that we love. And I think that the thing that makes us so different is we always focus on talking about Star Trek through the veil of our friendship that we've had for 25 plus years. I like to think that's part of the reason why people still listen, because, anybody can, if people listen to Bill by himself, they'd probably drive off a
Fall
cliff,
asleep.
and they probably would do worse if it was just listening to me. So maybe the both of us together is a special thing. I am grateful every single day for knowing that people look forward to listening to what we're going to talk about when we do record. And it is something that I will always appreciate and am very humbled every single day when we hear from our listeners of how much they're enjoying what we do.
And might I add, Matt, congrats to you for your 20th year. I mean, that's a long time, my friend. I mean, and you've been doing it consistently and greatly. And, you've put together an amount of work and that you should be proud of and that people enjoy. So kudos to you, man. That's hard to do. We know just simply from an audio perspective that consistency is really difficult in podcasting, and you've taken it to a whole other level. So you should absolutely relish this accomplishment, because you deserve it.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. The key is to not care about finessing. Just put it out. Put it out.
I don't think we have to worry about that. Yeah.
I will say that I'm still waiting for my invite onto the Trek Geeks, by the way.
Wow, look at that. He waited till 27 minutes past the hour to hit us with that, Dan. You said 8:28. You win.
There you go. Drinks are on Bill.
Yeah.
What?
All right. Well,
that's right. I said it.
Well, I can't fly out to Star Trek fan film sets anymore, because I kind of blew that bridge up over my shoulder earlier in the day. So I guess I'm coming to New Hampshire to buy you guys a pint of beer, and we'll discuss topics relating to our geekdom.
There's always Vegas.
There's always Vegas.
Yeah,
but
and
I've been to Vegas. Now I want to go to New Hampshire.
It's beautiful here. I'll tell you what, though, Matt, you are welcome anytime on the show. We'll get something together, because I think talking for an hour with you will be fantastic. We're just here for a half an hour today for your viewers, and I think having you on the show will probably drum up membership, just because there's only so much you can do with these two idiots. So
we'll have our vice president of guest relations get right on that as soon as he pulls his head out. Who is that again, by the way, Dan?
Alec Peters?
Yeah, no.
I'll get my guest producer to organise and my PA to organise some time in the schedule.
Yeah, do that.
Something along the lines. Gentlemen, I appreciate it. Congratulations on 300 episodes. Congratulations on sticking around. A quarter of a century of friendship as well. It really shows in the shows as well that it really is just two friends having a chat about Star Trek.
Yep.
And your appearances here on the channel as well, much appreciated. Looking forward to plenty more to come in months, years ahead.
There you go.
All the
Always
best
great
to
see you, man. Live long and
Absolutely,
prosper,
guys.
everyone.
Awesome. Thank you very much. The Trek Geeks, ladies and gentlemen, that is where we're going to wrap up our Trekzone Conversations for this celebrating 20 years of Trekzone live stream. Don't forget about membership. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but it does help when I put these shows out on their own to remind you of the membership. For less than a cup of coffee per month, you'll get early access and behind the scenes. For a little bit more, you can go behind the curtain of For Your Protection. It was going to be a Star Trek fan film. It's now morphed into being an independent sci-fi production. So be on the lookout for that. Details in the weeks ahead. I've got to get over all of the pre-production and planning for this one. So we'll get all of that out of the way and we'll get started on the next thing because there's always something else. Our social media feeds are active with the latest podcast highlights as well. I'll be putting all those together for all of these shows in the next week and a bit. So look out for all of that. We're on Threads now as well. That is that meta thing attached to Instagram. Apparently you can't delete it now without deleting Instagram. I don't know, something along there. We'll find something to do with Threads a little later on. You can find Trekzone Media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well. Like, follow and subscribe. Stand by everyone in the control room because here we go for another look at what is coming up. This has all been another part of our celebrating 20 years of Trekzone live stream event. Stay right there. Talking Science is next.
We're more than Star Trek and science fiction these days. Up next, we dive into the latest science and space headlines on Talkin' Science.
I honestly thought I had longer than that, but anyway. Let's get into Talkin' Science, which started in 2019 and is all about bringing you the latest in science and space. This is a good one for the guys. Let's see how they go. Southern launches new corporate look, possible fingerprints of gravitational waves, a planet that shouldn't exist. And just what the heck is that on the moon?
This is Trekzone's Talkin' Science.
This is the Bite Size Podcast, catching you up on the latest science and space headlines. Straight out of 2001, researchers studying the far side of the moon have discovered a block of granite that apparently used to be the inside of a volcano, but they're unsure how the volcano could have formed. For more than 20 years, an area on the far side of the moon called Compton-Belkovich has piqued many an astronomer. It has some odd topography, and the upper metre of soil seems to have more radioactive thorium than its surroundings. Now researchers at the Planetary Science Institute in Arizona have used data from China's Chang'e 1 and 2 orbiters to determine that it is a 50-kilometre wide area and it's unexpectedly hot. The path of logical conclusions led Matt Siegler and his team to decaying isotopes created by the repeated melting of rock via volcanism. Quasars are the supermassive black holes at the centres of early galaxies, and now scientists have unlocked some of their secrets to use them as clocks to measure near the beginning of time of the universe. With this tick-tock of the quasar clock, we can now chart time across the life of the cosmos. Einstein's general theory of relativity means that we should observe the distant and hence ancient universe running much slower than the present day. However, peering back that far in time has proven elusive. Scientists have now cracked that mystery by the use of quasars. Previously, astronomers had confirmed this slow-motion universe back to about half the age of the universe, using supernovae as standard clocks. But while supernovae are exceedingly bright, they are difficult to observe at the immense distances needed to peer into the early universe. Professor Lewis from the School of Physics and Sydney Institute for Astronomy at the University of Sydney worked with astrostatistician Dr. Brewer to examine details of 190 quasars observed over 2 decades, combining the observations taken at different wavelengths, green light, red light, and into the infrared. They were able to standardise the ticking of each quasar through the application of Bayesian analysis. They found the expansion of the universe imprinted on each quasar's ticking. Scientists have encountered a planet that appears to have survived its host star expanding outwards to become a red giant. However, the single star, Baek-2, might once have been a binary system, helping the lucky planet to survive. The Jupiter-like gas planet 8 UMI-b, named Halia, closely orbits the giant star Baek-2. In a first for astronomy, a team, including Dr. Dan Heuber and Professor Tim Bedding from the University of Sydney, has discovered that Hala survived a period of violent stellar transition that would normally have destroyed close-in planets. Using observations of Baek-2's stellar oscillations from NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, the scientific team found that the star is burning helium rather than hydrogen in its core, signalling that it had once expanded enormously into a red giant star. The planet Hala was discovered in 2015 by a team of Korean astronomers using the radial velocity method, which measures the periodic gravitational tug of the orbiting planet on its star, and it's about 520 light years from Earth. Protecting the Earth from alien materials and protecting other planets from contamination with our own is an international concern and responsibility, say international scientists. Planetary protection is a set of measures agreed upon at an international level to safeguard scientific investigations during space exploration, the team says. As space becomes more accessible with complex and innovative projects that involve robotics, including those missions where samples are brought back from space to Earth, and human exploration, we must protect pristine environments that we explore and our own biosphere. The researchers reviewed the role of the Committee on Space Research, or COSPAR, panel and its planetary protection policy, including recent considerations regarding that policy for the Moon, Venus, Mars, and small planetary bodies. In short, any project that requires particular attention regarding planetary protection need look no further than the COSPAR panel on planetary protection, a one-stop shop for information and guidance on preventing forward and backward contamination. In a study published in the Astronomy and Astrophysics Journal, scientists have used a powerful telescope in the Netherlands to observe 68 of SpaceX's Starlink satellites and detected emissions from those satellites that are drifting out of their allocated band. Federico Di Vroino, co-director of the International Astronomical Union Centre for the Protection of the Dark and Quiet Sky, and one of the authors of the study, says the finding is significant given the growing number of satellites orbiting our planet. Scientists say regulation is unable to keep up with the record number of satellites being launched, and those control mechanisms urgently need to catch up to ensure newer, more sensitive instruments that are coming online in the years ahead, like the Square Kilometre Array, have clear sky to peer deeper into the past. And finally, our good friends over at Southern Launch have unveiled a new look as they continue to power ahead with the future ambitious launches from Whalers Way and Coniber. CEO Lloyd Damp says our new logo marks the next chapter for Southern Launch. It signifies the growth we have had as a company over the past 5 years and sends a message to the global space industry that what we have to offer is unique and world-class. Designed in-house, the new logo depicts a rocket plume reaching a pinnacle. This also means new merch will be available in their online stores soon, and hopefully a shirt might just be making its way to my post office box. Well, members get perks. Click join under every Trekzone video to sign up and get early access and behind the scenes for less than a cup of coffee per month. For our podcast listeners, jump onto the trek.zone/support. Clicking thanks under Trekzone's videos enables a one-time contribution, while heading to the trek.zone/PayPal is the most direct route into this podcast budget. Nothing fancy, just my pure dedication to this podcast network for a decade. Do any of them today and have my eternal gratitude. Simply continue watching, liking and subscribing. That works too. I'm Matt Miller for Trekzone. I'll see you in the comments.
Moving beyond Star Trek fan films, we're thrilled to present one final look at our next drama project.
In a world first, the WA government has allowed a news crew inside a sanctuary district before the walls go up. These modern two-storey apartment blocks are brand new, having been rezoned from the industrial wasteland that was Thomson Lake. Facilities include commercial space, residential housing, as well as a gymnasium and swimming pool. Australia has borrowed the idea from the United States, and over the last 12 months, construction has been taking place at fever pitch. Our first sanctuary district will be a place for the homeless to try and start a better life. However, real life may be far from this very optimistic promise. Just over 11 months ago, the 5 newsroom was reeling at the report of the death of one of its own. He'd been king hit 3 days earlier while filming a story on roadworks, not far from here. Kathy Bates was at the Royal Rose Hospital today, and she filed this report.
Our colleague was punched in the head and was drifting in and out of consciousness around 9 p.m. He was Channel 5's first scholarship student, and he was sent to investigate a tip-off which suggested that there was something more to the roadworks than just resurfacing. Shortly after he arrived, he was set upon by 3 workers and the site foreman. He was king hit and had to wait 20 minutes for an ambulance to arrive. The site crew working that night were arrested, but released 2 hours later and continued to walk free for 11 months, having seemingly never faced police investigation. And in fact, the company they work for, Connecting Roads, continues to receive government contracts. And today, multiple work sites around the country appear to be a cover story for a series of connecting tunnels underneath the major metropolitan centres for Australia. My sources inside the state and federal government have suggested a connection to a mysterious woman named Ellie, noting that meetings with this woman immediately precede the green lighting of construction efforts. My sources have also noted that the federal government is chipping in more money than usual for what would normally be considered normal road expansion. So, as the months roll on, more questions than answers are cropping up.
Well, there we are. That is how we are celebrating 20 years of Trekzone. Over the week, going to be releasing each of these chats and the Fan Film Awards as separate editions, so you can catch up on those on replay. If you are watching us live now and you've missed anything, you can use the DVR function in Trekzone TV to catch up. Go back and check that all out. YouTube only gives me about 12 hours, so you can catch up on it through to about 7:30 tonight. So do that if you are watching us now. Trekzone TV is just flowing around, 1,080 episodes, so it's just on a constant loop. It's just doing all sorts of different stuff. You can drop in and out as you please, and it also gives me an ability to stay live and bring you these sort of events. More of this sort of stuff coming up. Obviously, I am leaving Star Trek, the Star Trek fan film world behind. As I said to Lee earlier today, it really was a product of wanting to podcast more during the pandemic. Stuck at home, what else are we going to do but podcast from the home study? In 2021, 350 episodes, so really needed that content, and the content that delivered was Star Trek fan films. Unfortunately, that individual obviously didn't like that and did everything he could to try and sabotage my efforts, and people joined in on that and consider him more worthy than me for whatever reason. So we'll move on, we'll do other things because there are other things in life to look at, and we can do all of that. As I said, we get embargoed media releases from Australia's Science Agency, so we can talk about science and space a little bit more. Rocket launches are coming up in Australia, Southern Launch, Gilmore Space, Equatorial Launch Australia. 3 states, well 2 states and a territory in this great country are launching rockets and building launch facilities as well. I know Southern Launch is gearing up for some more in the next 12 months. We'll be heading back to Whalers Way and Port Lincoln and checking those out. Bringing you more live coverage on Trekzone TV. Got a feel for how that's working now. Trekzone TV in the beginning was down there at Port Lincoln, and will continue to be there for those rocket launches. It was disappointing that they didn't launch those rockets in December. Wasn't their fault. All the launch facilities were ready to go, but it is rocket science, as Dr. Brad used to say, and it is hard, especially for a burgeoning industry to get started. So AT Space have taken those rockets away, those Kestrel 1 rockets, and they've studied them, and they're gearing up for launch once again. So looking forward to checking in with them and seeing the progress on those rockets. We of course have Gilmore Space here on the Gold Coast in Queensland. I have been meaning to get down there and check out their rocket fabrication facility on the Gold Coast, so we should definitely do that as well now that we've got a need for more content here at Trekzone. We're not dying at all, by no stretch of the imagination. The Trekzone Breakdown has been teased on Trekzone TV for a little while. That's coming up. It's going to be the episode reviews that were written on Trekzone.org, and now they're going to be presented just like this. So we'll talk about those. They seem to be popular videos at the moment, so hopefully we can get in on some of that and ride that wave a little bit more. Break down the episodes. As Larry said, Larry's got his Second Opinion show on Saturdays. We'll kind of be doing something a little bit similar, but release it a little bit quicker and try and show you all the things that you might have missed in those episodes. Look out for the Trekzone Breakdown. Trekzone Plays continues as well. The tagline was retro games, retro Star Trek games. Obviously that's morphed a little bit more now into being Star Trek. We have Resurgence. We have a new game coming in a couple of months. We've also got the Prodigy game as well, probably worthy of giving that a play with all of the Prodigy news that is happening at the moment, because it's all about the almighty algorithm. So playing Prodigy is probably what's next once we wrap up Resurgence, which was a few weeks away from finishing up, getting really deep into that story now. It's great to have a dialogue-driven game back. We didn't really have one at all, save for maybe Starfleet Academy or something like that, but great to actually have this narrative-driven story, and the guys at Dramatic Labs have done a fantastic job in putting that together. Sure, there's some bugs, there's some issues that they're working through, but you know, that's what good story and good game doesn't have a few of those, and you work through them and you get them done. So be on the lookout for those. Find our playlist of Trekzone Plays Star Trek Resurgence. Look at that. I think we're up to episode 8. Episode 9 will be coming up this week now that we're through this 20-year celebration. Lots of pre-production, lots of planning in this, so it's been fantastic. It's been fantastic to have a crew on board as well. Don't always get that. We're just in the study here at home. Now we're in the garage. We've just kind of moved to the next room, but that's okay. We've got a couple of cameras here. We're doing some great stuff and having the crew on board as well. Michael and Andrew, real world contacts that I made with Trekzone Media as that company grew. Fantastic supporters of me and this channel, and really striving to do the best work that we can. Had them down at the World Science Festival. That was fun. That was definite proof of what we can do in convention coverage. World Science Festival's a convention. We took Liam over to Supernova in Sydney a few weeks ago and met Michelle Gomez, Jim Cummings, Tamura Morrison as well. So that was fun. More of that sort of stuff is coming up. Vegas coming up again in August. Did manage to fly out last year, but the great thing is there are camera operators around the world looking for work. So that's exactly what I did last year. I found a camera operator in Vegas and I got him a press pass into the convention, and he walked around the floor and set up interviews while we were back here in the studio. A little bit easier, especially with COVID still lingering around, a little bit safer, a little bit easier than all the logistics of organising travel as well. But the 2019 trip, the Vegas or Bust tour, I think that definitely needs to come back again. Maybe next year, maybe for the cruise. Depends where I can get a media pass. Be on the lookout for that. We'll certainly be doing more stuff from the Star Trek universe and moving beyond those fan films, doing more science, doing more Star Trek and more science fiction as well. We've got Star Wars, we've got Lee Sargent wanting to come back and get Talkin' Trek started again, so definitely get in touch with him later on this week and get that organised. We're going to be doing a whole heap more as well. Trek Geeks are doing wonderful things, 300 episodes. Dr. Trek's doing amazing things as well with all of his shows. He's got his set tours around Los Angeles, all those famous filming locations. There's some content right there. Tie that in with the trip to the States. So plenty of stuff to look forward to. We're not slowing down here. It might be the 20th birthday today, the 10th anniversary of starting podcasting, but it really has been one heck of an adventure. And since 2020, since that pandemic, really working on a way of producing more and more content and keeping that quality up as well. So I really appreciate all of that. I appreciate Chuck at Mentioning Trekkie Mentions for all of his pre-production work, all the stuff that we had to get through to get those awards to wear this morning. It's just amazing that you spend all that time on it, and in just 40 minutes it's all done and dusted and already receiving. The phone is blowing up in my pocket, receiving lots of messages of support and thanks as well. 359 with 5 award wins, which is fantastic. Didn't win every category they were in, and we did that because there are plenty out there, 59 films on our list, so we wanted to recognise as many people as we could, if indeed it is the last time I celebrate Star Trek fan films. So thank you very much to all of that. To Keely and Georgia as well, running the graphics. It's been awesome. Again, having a crew, having a control room. We don't always get that here at Trekzone, so when we do, it's fantastic. It's a little bit nerve-wracking a little bit for me because I usually have everything here ready to go and I'm a one-man operation. So it is great to have the control room. It makes it seem a little bit more real, a little bit more official. That's probably enough waffling for me. We're getting out early, but that's okay. We had a couple of things fall through with Talkin' Science. Always the way we're trying to bring in guests and making news. Especially on a Monday morning, you don't have a chance to catch up with people, but plenty of stuff still to come. We'll check in with Southern Launch. We'll check in. There is actually some gravitational wave news as well that the CSIRO has sent us. So I'll get onto that. We'll get some more people onto the show. We'll get Talkin' Science interviews back and happening. We'll get back into more of a regular schedule as well. Don't forget the membership. That is available. Sign up on YouTube. $3.99 a month. Less than a cup of coffee a month. Supports the channel. A little bit more, I think it's the $15 tier, will give you access into all the pre-production for your protection, our next series as well. Haven't talked about that in my ramblings, so that's coming up as well. But do that supporting if you can. That is appreciated. We've also got the PayPal if you want to do a direct contribution. I know a couple of people have done that over the last couple of weeks, so that's fantastic. Social media as well, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, that new app as well. We're on there. We'll start posting some content there very, very soon. All of these Trekzone Conversations today and Talkin' Science will be out separately throughout the week, and as always I'll have the podcast highlights to come as well on the social channels, and on all of those, the Trek.zone link, that's where you can jump over and catch the full episode, so look out for all of that. Once again, appreciate everyone's support that has supported the channel over the last 10 years, supported the website over 20 years. A posthumous thanks to Dad for his credit card. That's where it all got started. I was 14. I didn't have a credit card, so Dad had to pay that original license fee for 2 years. So plenty of great stuff. I really appreciate everyone's support. And I'm getting the wrap up from the control room. It's time to have the wrap party. So thanks very much for watching 20 years of Trekzone. I'm going to take you back now to that randomizer on Trekzone TV. Michael, take us away.
Thank you.